Hey, what's going on, folks? Hope you're having a good Sunday. Today I'm going to talk about Republican versus Libertarian. Which one do I think is right? Which one am I? And perhaps most controversially, why I think the Republican Party is doing socialism and will continue to do socialism because nobody calls them out. Before I start my show, I'm going to play these two clips from the legendary Ron Paul, who was both a Republican in party, but a Libertarian at heart. Let's take a listen.
Most of our history, we didn't have those institutions. The FBI came in during the First World War. And interestingly enough, one thing that Woodrow Wilson did, he used the FBI to spy on American citizens and actually arrest them if they disagreed with his foreign policy about going to war in Europe. And isn't it interesting how recent they used it in the Vietnam era? Democrats used it there, and Republicans used the FBI to spy on 100 different groups in this country, including the churches, who disagree with the policy in Central America. It almost looks like the FBI was designed to spy on Americans who might be disagreeing with policy, especially the foreign policy. So the FBI, although I don't think I could condemn everything they've ever done, because I'm sure some of the investigations and investigation of crime has been beneficial, but that could be accomplished through Justice Department within our states. We wouldn't reject that portion of it. But I think the FBI has kept and continues to keep a lot of records on a lot of individuals. The CIA has only been here since 1947. Their record is lousy. I mean, just think of the CIA used by the Democratic administration to
Yes, I think this is not a consequence of free markets. What's happening is there's transfer of wealth from the poor and the middle class to the wealthy. This comes about because of a monetary system that we have. When you inflate a currency or destroy a currency, the middle class gets wiped out. So the people who get to use the money first, which is created by the Federal Reserve System, benefit. So the money gravitates to the banks and to Wall Street. So that's why you have more billionaires than ever before. Today, this country is in the middle of a recession for a lot of people. Michigan knows about it. Poor people know about it. The middle class knows about it. Wall Street doesn't know about it. Washington, D.C. doesn't know about it. But it's because of the monetary system and the excessive spending. As long as we live beyond our means, we are destined to live beneath our means. And we have lived beyond our means because we are financing a foreign policy that is so extravagant and beyond what we can control, as well as the spending here at home. And we're depending on the creation of money out of thin air, which is nothing more than debasement of the currency. It's counterfeit, and it is a natural, predictable consequence that you're going to have people benefit from it and other people suffer. So if you want a healthy economy, you have to study monetary theory and figure out why it is that we're suffering. And everybody doesn't suffer equally, or this wouldn't be so bad. It's always the poor people, those on retired incomes, that suffer the most. But the politicians and those who get to use the money first, like the military-industrial complex, they make a lot of money and they benefit from it.
Thank you. It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles, yeah. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a good Sunday, and welcome to the Dream Rare Podcast. I'm excited for this one. I want to talk about libertarianism, Republican Party, and a few of my thoughts. I figured I'd open it with Ron Paul because he was both. He was Republican, registered Republican. He ran for president. He served in Congress for a while, and he also inspired a lot of modern-day libertarians. So he kind of brings both together. And I see in the comments right now, I see some Republicans dunking on libertarians. I see some libertarians dunking on Republicans. I'm so excited for this live stream. This is a Sunday one I can do. And I'll tell you why I agree with certain things on both sides and why I think the Republican Party is actually a socialist party. And why I think a lot of these people who say they're fighting rhinos, we're not the rhinos. Those are the rhinos, and we're the new America guys. I still think they're socialists, and I'm going to prove it. But real quick before I do, I very rarely do this, but I want to give back since it's a Sunday stream. And I just want to say thank you to a few people real quick who've supported my stream, because if you guys don't know, I do mostly everything myself, edit. It's a one-man show, except for your help, your shares, your everything. So just the top 10 star senders on Facebook: Cindy, Joe Yogi, Tracy, Christina, Lucille, Trude, Ann, Ryan, Sean, and Agnes. I appreciate you. If you think it's you, it probably is. You guys were the top star senders on Facebook. I just wanted to say thank you. Helps a lot. And on Patreon, Kevin, Alexander, Flynn, Dawn, Rachel, Rhonda, Alejandro, Alexandra, Anna, Archie, Bob, Candy, Colleen, Dance, I don't know if I said that right, sorry about that, Donna, Eric, Jason, Gina, Joni, Karen, Martin, Mary, Miss Carol, N.H. Saria, Patrick, Randolph, Rhonda, real quick, almost done, Sal, Sheila, Valerie, Virginia, Yvonne, Austin, Chaos, Introview, Jessica, Jimmy, Ken, Tim, Will, Camilla. I appreciate you guys so much. And, you know, monetization comes and goes on Facebook and YouTube, but thanks to your support through subscribing on Patreon or Facebook, it really makes a huge difference. So thank you guys so much. Without further ado, you know, libertarianism versus liberals. I see people hate on them all the time. You have Christian conservatives say libertarians are just liberals, like they don't have a basis foundation. Libertarians will say Republicans, you know, they're just the uniparty. It's the same thing. And I know this is going to bother people, and I hate to bring it back to this, but unfortunately I have to. I just want to point out the Republican Party through Trump's years, not to fully blame him. There's McConnell, there's the party, etc. You know, I consider it a socialist / communist party. And I know that's going to sound crazy. Once again, if you hang with me, I'm going to prove it. I read the Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx. I've been reading this book. I read a lot of it today. I'm almost done. It's called The Law by Frederick Bastiat. The great G. Edward Griffin told me to read it, and I did. And this is a book all about liberty and plunder, which is theft, and trying to explain how this is in 1850, how socialism was just starting to creep into America. And he was warning Frederick Bastiat, you know, you really got to nip this in the bud now, because the more socialist your country gets, the harder it is going to be to get rid of it. Because essentially, you know, I have a bunch of definitions of socialism. You could define it a bunch of different ways. People think they're getting the power, the labor, etc. I printed it out somewhere, but I believe Marx defined it as like a transient point from capitalism turning into communism. You know, in the middle of that, the transfer from capitalism to communism is socialism, and it's very broadly defined in multiple different ways. But, you know, back in the day, I mean, in the 1800s, etc., if you were to give a time machine to, let's just go even further back and say, like, you know, Jefferson, Franklin, Washington, Madison, I don't know, pick one of your founding fathers, give them a time machine to 2008 or 2008, 2020, whatever, and show them how much we're being taxed, right? Outside of everything, Trump, Biden, whatever, anybody, they're taxing you 10%, 12%, 20%. You hit the top bracket. It's like you vote Republican and they'll tax you 30%, or you vote for the Democrats, they try to tax you 40%. You know, I vote Republican. I'm a registered Republican. And I'm just going to say it now. And I see the benefits of the Republican Party in certain senses, but people don't understand that Karl Marx had talked about in the Communist Manifesto a progressive income tax. Karl Marx would be laughing hysterically if he were alive right now, being like, both parties are literally my idea of the Communist Manifesto. Like 30-something% for those who make over a certain bracket. Even when Republicans win, they're still doing socialism. Any tax that's this high, I mean, like a 1% or 2% tax is one thing, but like, guys, you already know if you work, you're paying 10, 20, 30, 35. Sometimes you're paying 40. You know, Obama's trying to take 40 something. Bernie wants to take 50. It's psychotic. So I'm not blaming Trump, did not start this, but you know, everybody fights over the FBI raid. Everybody fights over the personality of Trump. They like him, they don't like him. The Democrats aren't even pretending to be like a free market party anymore. They're not pretending to be small government. They're proudly big government. Their little excuses saying, well, there's racism, there's climate change, there's xenophobia, there's sexism, there's Trumpism, fascism, you know, any ism, they say all of them, and they say, so the solution is vote for us and we're just going to spend your money and build, and if you question the government, you're crazy. Questioning the CDC is crazy. The FBI is crazy. You know, you're a lunatic if you question the EPA. So it's like, government gets more and more bloated, and the more bloated they get, you have the Democratic Party that is proud of how big the government is and wants to make it bigger, and the Republican Party that claims to want to make government smaller, but they always make it bigger. In some cases, there's little wins like Supreme Court justices cutting certain regulations, but really, like, the bulk of government just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And what's fascinating to me, reading Frederick Bastiat's The Law, is he was trying to explain where it's like, dude,
once it gets to a certain point, it's going to be hard to reverse. And we've gone so far past that point that our tax bracket under Republicans would literally, like Karl Marx probably couldn't even dream of taxing this much. Back in the day, they didn't tax 30, 35, 40. You know, he was complaining about tariffs in this book, tariffs and other stuff. So long story short, I understand, and I'm going to get to both sides of the story, but in my opinion, libertarians are 100% right when it comes to taxes. Taxes, if you could say there was a fire and the kerosene pouring on the fire, it's like that's what taxes are. This government that everybody claims to hate so much, it's like you're funding them. You know, we know why Gavin Newsom does such a bad job. He does a horrible job with homelessness, this, that, gets billions of dollars. And then next year he gets that money from you. You know, this is the root psychology of why government's so bad. Elon Musk nails it. Elon says, government is like a bad corporation with a monopoly on violence. He said they do a worse job than the private sector in most things, but they just have a monopoly on violence. That's the government. It's a great way to put it. So in general, if, you know, Amazon, I know that they're a little corrupt, but it's like if they do a great service, you got to say, like 2 days, it's there. If Amazon had no reason to do that, it's like, you get what I'm saying? The government, it's like they fumble $1 trillion and they don't care. They just keep printing it. They don't have like any sort of bounds to how far they can screw up, because every year they steal your money. So, you know, I understand it might not be feasible at this point to do what libertarians want on taxes, but they are right. And until people realize that both parties are taxing way too high, your money is just going to keep funneling into this system that you claim to hate. And Republicans are always going to take 2 steps forward and 50 steps backwards, right? It's like there's a reason, and I'm not, try to stay with me because I know people are going to spiral. Not everybody, but some people, they're going to like, they just don't want to hear anything about Trump. But just let's all be honest. Did America get made great again? Let's save the excuses, okay? Please don't spiral on me. We'll save the excuses till later. Did America get made great again by 2020? Was it great again? No, it was worse than ever. We had lockdowns, quarantines, social distancing rules. We had trillions of dollars being spent. We had Fauci on television every day. America didn't be made great again. It got worse, in my opinion. So why did that happen? The reason it happens is because ideologically, you can't fight the deep state or the government if you just keep making it bigger and playing into their mess. And unfortunately, that's what the Republican Party does. I want to show you one thing real quick because this is very eye-opening. I saw it today. Somebody posted it on Twitter, and I know people aren't going to want to see it, but I don't really care. This is in 2020, in September of 2020. Let's look at this real quick, and please have an open mind, okay? It says President Donald J. Trump is working to stop evictions and protect Americans' homes during the COVID-19 pandemic. This is some sort of order Trump signed on September 1st. It says temporarily halting evictions following an executive order by President Trump. The CDC is using its authority to temporarily halt evictions throughout the end of 2020 in an effort to slow the spread of COVID-19. Under the CDC order, American renters who meet certain conditions cannot be evicted if they have affirmatively exhausted their best efforts to pay rent, seek government rental assistance, and are likely to become homeless due to eviction. So President Trump used his executive federal power to essentially stop landlords from collecting money and gave all the power to the CDC. He literally signed away authority to the CDC, which he claims to hate. This is from a news clip out. It says the agency ordered the result of an August 8 executive action by Trump directing the CDC to study this issue would impose criminal penalties on landlords who violate the ban. Evictions for reasons other than non-payment of rent will be proceeded. So there's a reason I read that aloud, guys, because when it comes to socialism and communism, at best, that's socialism. That's like straight up communist stuff where you're telling the CDC, who Trump pretends to fight on a daily basis, he signs away with his executive pen the power to let them not evict people. And this is like a total, I would say, strong arm on landlords. What if you're a landlord and you actually have to pay for all these properties, and now you have the federal government coming in and telling you that you can't collect a paycheck because the CDC, the corrupt Center for Disease Control, has the authority to essentially throw you in prison. There's a reason I'm bringing this up, right? How in the world can we, the Republican Party that believes in a smaller government and fighting back against the quote-unquote deep state, how in the world can we ever win anything when the guy that everybody's looking up to for leadership is signing away executive communist powers to the Center for Disease Control? It's literally insane. And when I say this stuff, I see the same two things over and over and over. The first one I see, well, let's start with one that's fake. People will say, oh, you're a liberal, because they've been programmed. If you're not us, you're us, right? The only people who question Trump or the Republicans must be the Democrats. So if you are questioning Republicans, you must be a Democrat. It's totally wrong. I'm actually further right, not in a bad way, but in an economic way, I'm further right than the Republican Party. The second thing I hear is, well, he had to do that because it was a pandemic. It was a virus. And what people don't understand with this type of ideology is, I get what you're saying. Yes, this is a drastic emergency, but this is the Democratic Party. This is socialism. At this point, you're just a socialist with a Republican hat on, an elephant or a Trump hat on, and you don't understand why. The whole reason the Democrat prints money and does all this stuff for climate change, for racism, for poverty, they use that same exact excuse. We have to do socialism. We have to do borderline communism because there's inequality. We have to do socialism because the climate's changing rapidly and the government needs to intervene. We have to do socialism because there's racism and it's not fair. And then you go to the Republican Party and they say, well, he had to do socialism because there was a virus. It's like, well, then you can expect a lot more pandemics and emergencies if now you have the liberty-minded Republican Party admitting that they're willing to, if their guy's in office, allow this new concept that it's okay to do socialism and communism if there's an emergency and a pandemic. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm not pointing the finger. I'm not hating on people. I'm just saying they confuse us through the left and the right, through somebody that you like who has a good personality and tells you a lot of what you want to hear. They actually got millions of Trump supporters, not all of them, because a lot of people who love Trump are going to listen to what I'm saying and be like, oh, that makes total sense. I get it. But a lot of Trump supporters literally started sounding like socialists and communists by saying, in March and April, when I'm like, wait, what's up with this lockdown? What's up with this trillions of dollars printed? What's up with the Operation Warp Speed? That's socialism for Big Pharma. What's up with him giving executive power to the CDC to stop landlords from collecting rent? This is like Karl Marx's dream. Folks, I'm not telling people what to read, but I would say if you've never read the Communist Manifesto, give it a read, not because it's any good, because I'm not going to say nobody, that's a little rude, but a lot of people just hear sound bites on Fox News or from certain talkers, and they think they know what socialism and communism is, like, oh, it's this and it's the left. And it's like, read the book, because you could really understand exactly what it was. And if you read the book, you'll understand that Karl Marx would love for a government agency to be able to shut down a landlord from collecting rent. Like, this is not even middle stage socialism. This is like end stage socialism, early stage communism that got ushered in through the Republican Party under the Trump administration via executive order. And here's where it gets crazy, because I know a lot of people will say then, well, I hear you, but they've learned their lesson. They're going to change it. Really? I've listened to all of them speak over the last 2 years. Let's start with Tim Scott, Senator Tim Scott. He stood on stage when Biden did his State of the Union, and Tim Scott, for some reason, was chosen by the Republican Party to do a counter speech. Everybody likes to be like, oh, Tim Scott's so great because he's black and it means the left are the real racists. And listen, I don't care. There's a lot of people that are black, white, Hispanic. I like good people, but it doesn't make Tim Scott an impressive Republican just because the left is the real racist when he talks. No offense. God bless you, Tim Scott. Seemed like a nice guy. Tim Scott sucks, okay? And when he stood up there on the State of the Union to stick it to Joe Biden, I feel like I was one of the few influencers who pointed out, because I listened to his speech, he was bragging about everything that the Republican Party did in 2020. Not only is the Republican Party not sorry for their socialism, not only is the Republican Party not sorry for the communism they did, not only are they not sorry for printing trillions of dollars, not only are they not sorry for giving CDC executive powers to arrest landlords, not only are they not sorry for giving tens of billions of dollars to Big Pharma so Big Pharma could stick their fist down your throat, they're not sorry. They're bragging about it. Tim Scott stood on television and he started bragging about socialism and communism that they did in 2020. And I watched Fox News say, the left is the real racist. I watched influencers that I like and respect, low-level stuff, no offense, say, oh, wow, Tim Scott really stuck it to Joe Biden. And it's like, dude, he literally just bragged about socialism and communism of 2020 because the Republicans did it. He's not remotely sorry. I promise you, Mitch McConnell's not sorry. Kevin McCarthy's not sorry. And I've listened to Trump over the last couple of years to know that he's certainly not sorry for anything he did in 2020. He shut down so fast, and they said he was racist because of China. You know what I'm saying? He stuck it to the FDA, and he rushed the vaccine so fast and gave them so much money. He's the best, you know? His policies were awesome. He was bad-mouthing Sweden. He's not sorry for anything he did in 2020. To the credit of Ron DeSantis, who is not perfect, he's the only Republican I've heard that did stuff that actually admitted that it wasn't the right thing to do. Thomas Massie knew it wasn't the right thing to do. Ron Paul knew it wasn't the right thing to do. Everybody knew about that. But out of the Republicans that followed suit with the 15 days to slow the spread, I've only heard Ron DeSantis, to his credit, admit that it was a mistake. Every other Republican that I've seen, including Trump, brags about what they did, and they have no plans to return it. Why do I say this? Why am I talking about this? Because when it comes to the Democratic Party, we already know that they believe in massive government expansion. They believe in, I mean, they're not going to say it, but they essentially believe in socialism. They think it's a threat to question one of the government agencies, like, oh my gosh, that's so bad. It's like, it's because that's what they are. And in this book, Frederick Bastiat, The Law, I think I'm going to start doing book reports on books I read and putting it behind Patreon and Facebook subscribers like a bonus. I'll do a full report on it, but Frederick Bastiat was talking about why it's so important to, weed out socialism in the 1850s. Obviously, we didn't. Now we're 50 steps in the wrong direction. But he was explaining as government gets bigger and bigger and bigger, they're going to start lobbying for themselves, right? Once they get that money, once they get that power, then they're going to use all these excuses. I mean, everything he wrote in this book came true. It's like now they're going to be like, well, we're so huge that if you question us and our money, it's so bad, and you must be a hateful person. They're lobbying for their own interests. They're lobbying for their own budgets and money. And this is the part that I'm going to get to. And by the way, for those who are Republicans and think libertarians are foolish in some cases, I'm going to get to my little criticisms of libertarians. But for the most part, libertarians are right about taxes, and they are right about how the Republican Party isn't really a liberty-based party. And under Trump, without Trump, like all these rhino fighters, I'm fighting the right. It's a big show. They're fighting some of them. Liz Cheney's on her way out. We've definitely made some progress. I'm not trying to knock it. Like the movement is there, the energy's there. But as far as what they did in 2019, 2020, they printed all them. They're socialists. They're not capitalists. They're not free market liberty based people, and they have no plans of changing. And the reason that I want to address this is because I really think, based on everything I've read, researched, looked at, I don't think we're ever going to make America great again until we admit this. I think this was bound to happen at the end of Trump's presidency. You could say this is a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, and this virus just spontaneously came out of nowhere and, caused the Republican Party to do a bunch of socialism and communism. You could make that argument, but I believe that we were doomed from the start because it's like, I can't think of a better example, but, a fire with kerosene being poured on it. The only way to put the fire out is to stop pouring the kerosene. And although we take a few steps back, you look at the omnibus bills, Republicans poured the kerosene. I remember the omnibus bill of 2019, Ted Cruz, to his credit, did a really good job. Do you guys remember where Ted Cruz was holding up the Post-it notes or whatever he had in his hand? He was pointing out the craziness of this omnibus bill that Republicans signed in 2019 before the pandemic. It had CDC studying gun control, which is obviously a disaster. It had Planned Parenthood type stuff. It had so much left-wing garbage in it. And Trump, I remember the last year in 2018, you guys remember there was a government shutdown. I had a video of him saying he'll never sign a bill like this again. And then he signed that bill. I'm not saying this to personally attack the guy. I'm just saying this. It's like a fire that's raging, this socialist fire that's raging towards communism. And Republicans stand on television with cowboy hats and thumbs up, dancing with the YMCA. And all they do is just pour kerosene on it. The 2020... I bring this up not to be repetitive, but the 2020 Republican Party was socialist at best, communist at worst. Giving the CDC power to stop landlords is not only close to communism, it's like if you read the Communist Manifesto, Karl Marx says a lot of things. One of the key points, if not the main point that he makes sure that you understand is like the most key principle of communism is you have no right to private property. That's like if I were to pick, because he says it clearly. I've read the book, I've highlighted it, I've researched it. He says if there's one thing you take away from this book, essentially, it's, you do not have the right to private property under communism. And when you give the Center for Disease Control a federal executive order with your pen to tell landlords that they're not allowed to collect rent, your property's not private anymore. There is no free enterprise. When your business is not allowed to open and function without the local or federal, police agencies cracking down on you, governors, you don't have a business anymore. There is no free market and there is no private property. So at best, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, of course, but the Republican Party was a socialist party in 2020. At worst, they were communist. I mean, I have tweets in March and April literally saying and I'm not going to name names. Should I name names? Because I can. I have I don't have a photographic memory, but I have a pretty good memory. I remember exactly which right-wing influencers were cheering on communism, and I was warning. I was like, guys, what's going on here? Lockdowns, this emergency order, these crazy federal executive orders being passed, the CARES Act. I was like, this is straight up communism. And then when you had, I believe the exact tweet that I was referring to is Trump in April or May. He started looking at Sweden. If you guys don't know, Sweden, the country, was not locking down as hard as America. They weren't pushing mandates. They were one of the freer, if not the freest country in Europe at the time, because they were rejecting all of these crazy things that America was doing. And the reason, by the way, I heard, because I talked to some Swedish people and I did some research, the reason that Sweden rejected all these things that we were doing here in America is because they have a constitution, and they were following their politicians said our hands are tied. We want to do this, but we think our constitution says we can't. And then the health experts said, let's go with herd immunity. So to make a long story short, Sweden was open and America was closed. And the Republican president of the United States, Donald Trump, tweeted, Sweden, basically, I don't remember the exact tweet because Trump's Twitter got taken down, but it was something along the lines of Sweden, everybody's dying there, it's so bad, they should have been like America and followed the safety guidelines. And you had mainstream Republicans like MAGA, 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 and I retweeted it. I still have the tweet somewhere. I said, hey, Trump, you're doing communism. You're cheering on communism, and you're making it seem like freedom is a bad idea. You're trying to con the MAGA base into thinking like Georgia opening's bad, Sweden staying open's bad. Just follow me, Fauci and Birx. We have guidelines. We have a phase plan. I said early in April, this is communism. When you have the federal government and these loser doctors on camera saying, we, the government, have a phase plan for you to roll out. You no longer have freedom. You no longer have sovereignty. You should follow our little rules. And we'll tell you, they're like, 2 more weeks, move the goalposts. You get what I'm saying? I'm like, this is communism. And I'm not specifically just blaming Trump because I have personal feelings. I'm just like, as somebody who loved him more than most people love him. I was like, what are you doing, bro? As a fan or supporter, I'm like, how could you just turn like that over a pandemic? Now you're justifying lockdowns and you're saying it's bad to stay open. Like, that was the craziest thing to me. And everybody took the bait because they liked him, or I don't really know what's going through people's heads. So, when it comes to the Republican Party, they are straight up socialist. It's not, and I'm not just saying it like loosely, like, oh, everything's socialism that I don't like, and if I don't like you, it's socialism. Like, no, I've read the Communist Manifesto. I'm reading, ancient texts from hundreds of years ago talking about liberty, real capitalism, free market stuff, and it's like, you can't do what the Republican Party does and win. You just can't. I'm not saying it to be mean. I'm just saying we're never going to win. You do what the Republican Party did for the first 3 years, you're going to end up in a lockdown. Like, there's no other way around it. The only way to defeat this stuff, and I'm going to give solutions, is I think the base needs to figure out it's happening, but this is where it gets really tricky. I don't have that much sway in the Republican Party, and nobody wants to talk about it. So it's like, the charade is going to go on. You're going to have, is Trump going to get arrested by the FBI? Are they reaching and just trying to arrest him, or do they really have something? Probably not. Probably they're reaching, but we'll see. Then it'll be like, there's the new thing, and everybody runs circles around it. It's like a Marvel movie. You know what I'm saying? In 2016, here's the new Marvel movie, Orange Man bad if you're left wing, and if you're right wing, at first Orange Man bad, but now Orange Man good. And then he gets into office, and that becomes the whole dynamic of it. It's like this versus this, right? It's Trump versus the deep state, Trump versus the media, Trump versus the Democrats, Trump versus the rhinos. And those are all really happening to an extent. I'm not saying that's not happening, but I am saying that, that is, someone said anomalies black pilled. No, I'm not. I'm going to tell you the real white pill, the optimism. It's not like optimism when you believe in a lie. It doesn't make you optimistic to live vicariously through a politician or a billionaire. So everyone always gets that misconstrued. They say, oh, you're very pessimistic. I'm one of the most optimistic people you'll find. I believe in myself. I believe in the country. I believe in the world. And at the end of the day, I think you need to change yourself to change the world. I think the Republican Party deserves Trump. I think Democrats deserve Joe Biden. I think Democrats became so unhinged in their pursuit of hating Donald Trump that they didn't make sense anymore. And when you don't make sense anymore and you're getting corrupt and insane, you get an 80-year-old corrupt, insane guy, Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the perfect person. I don't like him, but I love him for the Democrats. You take everything they did over the last 4 years, it's like Joe Biden. You put that in a machine like Steve Urkel when he comes out as like the more handsome version, the cooler version, and then Biden comes out. It's like, yeah, that's what you deserve, and the right deserves Trump. But anyway, getting back to someone said anomalies red pill. Call it whatever pill, but I'm not a big pharma guy. But in general, there is a real fight going on, like Trump versus the rhinos. There is a there is like a power struggle going on. Like Trump, he's not friends with Liz Cheney, I don't think. I mean, maybe at one point, but I do think he's fighting the media. At the same time, though, here's something I'm going to tell you. The media and Trump and the left and the right, they both benefit off each other's, controversy. So, for example, when the Capitol riots happened, we all know this here. I'm not saying they wanted it to happen, but let's be honest. Do you think Democrats love the fact that Trump supporters did that, or they could say they did that? So now they have 2 years of arresting people, making it seem like they were trying to overthrow the government. The left, you could argue that they actually wanted that to happen because it's politically beneficial to their side. Now they can use the FBI to go after everybody. You get what I'm saying? And when that all happened with the Capitol, CNN had record high ratings, okay? Now you go to the Trump FBI raid. I'm not saying Trump wanted to get raided, but what people need to understand is Eric Trump is like, we're pissed off, MAGA, and we're getting record amounts of money. Like Trump's breaking recent records for how much money he's getting off the FBI raid. So in a weird way, I'm not saying they planned this stuff or anything, but to you and me, we get caught in the Marvel movie of it. Orange Man bad or Orange Man good. He's going to save us. He's not, But to them, it's like they know how politics works. So sometimes they act more outraged than they are, and they know how to capitalize off something that happens bad to them. So, I'm not saying the FBI raid was planned or anything, but there are a lot of times where these people are like just playing off of the hype to just make a fortune off of the story of the other side doing something bad. It's always, it's like the easiest way to make a bunch of money. But getting back to the dynamic of, Trump versus the deep state, Trump versus Liz Cheney and the rhinos, Trump versus, the old losers in the Republican Party, Trump versus the Democrats, Trump versus the establishment. I'm not saying that's not happening at all, but what I am saying is there's certain conversations that never get had. So while we're talking about all the things Trump's doing and fighting, what we're not talking about is what he's not doing. The connections he has to, whether it's listening to Jared Kushner and putting a bunch of people that hate him into office, or whether, allegedly, reportedly, or whether it's putting pharmacy lobbyists in at the head of human health services, whether it's, signing executive orders to give the CDC power to, shut down a landlord. Like, this is things Trump's doing, and we don't get a chance to talk about them because it's always like, well, here's the Marvel narrative. The Marvel movie is big orange man, pick a side. He's either great or he's either terrible, and he's either your hero or he's either the villain, and that's the narrative for 7 years. It's like our whole country's stuck in loop. We're stuck in like a loop where, 6 years later, it's about to be Biden versus Trump again, and we're in a loop of like, people are like, MAGA, I hate Trump, and like nothing's advancing. It's 2022. We could be building things, rebuilding our airports, you know what I'm saying, infrastructure. What are we doing? Guys, we're sending 40-50 billion dollars to, you know, allegedly, possibly, maybe cokehead Zelensky in Ukraine, you know, sending a bunch of money to a foreign proxy war. Well, like, you know, running circles around the FBI raid, running circles around the, like, what are we doing as a country on both sides? This is embarrassing. We're just stuck in a time warp loop. And guess what? The deep state doesn't care because they're making a fortune. They're making a fortune no matter who's in office. Before Biden even got into office, before the pandemic, let's say 2019, Donald Trump signed a multi-billion or trillion-dollar omnibus bill. Before the pandemic, Donald Trump signed an executive order giving Big Pharma this whole new, I would say infrastructure to modernize vaccines. You know, then when the pandemic came, you had Trump do socialism and communism, print $1 trillion, give tens of billions of dollars to Big Pharma, and then give the CDC executive power to stop landlords like Karl Marx would have dreamed of. He's doing communism. So at the end of the day, yes, they don't like Trump. I don't think they do like Trump because he's too much of a wild card. But really what they're great at doing is controlling the entire like little arena we play in. So it doesn't really matter. Like, I want Trump to beat Biden. I wanted him to win in 2020. Now, I would prefer someone like a Thomas Massie or Rand Paul to win, but that's not going to happen. But in general, I'd still support Trump over Biden just to roll the dice on it, of course. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because the Republican Party doesn't have a plan to change. They're not even remotely sorry for the socialism and communism they did. And nobody seems to really care that much. So, you know, without talking too much on that note, I think libertarians are right about taxes. Libertarians were right about the lockdown. Libertarians are right about government being too big and the Republican Party not doing enough about it. And I understand that people will say, well, nothing can be done about it and it's too big. And maybe that's true. Maybe it is too big. But then it's like, I don't like to give up. I don't think, things last forever. I do think it's possible to scale back in the right direction. I just think the Republicans pretend like they're doing it and then they don't actually do it. And here's where I differ with a lot of people is most Republicans agree with what I'm saying because that's what Trump ran on. Trump took this energy of, the Tea Party movement. Trump took the energy of Ron Paul's disaffected people. He even got a lot of Bernie people to, that were disaffected because they didn't like Hillary. And Trump kind of capitalized / created this new movement off of the backs of the Tea Party people, etc. Like, I'm the guy. I'm going to drain the swamp. I'm going to make big government smaller. And he didn't. But here's the thing. He didn't do it, but he's not even like remotely apologetic. Yeah, he might go nuclear, not literally nuclear, but metaphorically nuclear on, maybe he would in his next term. But in general, it's like he sucked up all this energy of people being like, we want this, and then he didn't do it. So now he's the figure spearhead of the Republican Party, and everybody's just running circles around the FBI rate, this, that, just, but nobody's asking to hold him accountable. And I seem like a crazy person when I bring all this stuff up because everybody's so busy selling Let's Go Brandon shirts and MAGA merch. And, a lot of the big Republican influencers are friends with him and his family. So they know what I'm saying is right. I still have yet 2 years later to be disproven for any of the things I'm saying. Most of the time when I talk to people, it's just like, yeah, but let's just not talk about it. It's like, let's not talk about the fact that our party is doing socialism and communism. That's not important to you? Well, they're going to do it differently next time. Are they? I've not heard one person apologize. So I think libertarians are right about that. In general, though, I guess I am also in some ways Christian conservative. So I would say I do get why certain Republicans are like, well, libertarians are weak on this or that. I think they have even an interesting argument with the police, though. Libertarians will say it's not that we're against all police, but we just think it could be better privately. And it might be true. I mean, the police do a good job in certain areas, but maybe private police force could do better than, public. Thomas Massie and Rand Paul have me thinking that the whole Department of Education is a joke. Like, oh, we need education. what have schools turned into, right? On one hand, it's nice that the government provides it, but they're like little liberal indoctrination camps now. They're teaching you the history they want you to know, the books that they want you to read, the gender dysphoria or whatever they're calling it that they want your kids to do. You know, pay $200,000, $100,000 for your kid to come back with blue hair, hating you and thinking Karl Marx was a hero. So at this point, I'm even libertarian pilled on schools. Like, I don't even know if the Department of Education should do that. Junior said Anomaly's losing my respect because of his hate. I have no hate in my heart. This has been the least hateful stream, but I recognize your name. You're always like spiraling when I talk about this, so I'm just going to ignore it. But, you know, I do understand, I guess, I am more Christian and conservative when it comes to the discipline versus freedom argument and even laws. So, you know, I get there's certain ANCAP libertarians that are like, listen, this will all sort itself out in the private sector in general. But I do believe personally in biblical principles, and I do think there's a reason that they're there. And I know a lot of libertarians agree with that too, but I do think like this is something that's been destroying, in my perspective, the conservative movement, is people have been too interested in freedom and doing whatever and not interested enough in not doing whatever, if you get what I'm saying. So I use this example a lot, but freedom is good when you want to build things. Like, you don't want the government to come in and tell you, you can't say that, you can't invent that, you can't build there, you can't do, you know, that's where government gets too much. You want the freedom and liberty to get them off your back and have private property and be able to grow food and collect rainwater, like, you know, cow's milk, stuff like that. Government should be away from, but freedom does not make a great man. It's actually discipline. So I do agree with the conservatives and Christians there. I do find that a lot of libertarian people, they don't age well because they don't have the same discipline as certain Christian conservatives, and they just like, yeah, whatever, you know. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's great to be free, but, you know, don't be so open-minded that your brain falls out. And I think, you know, having certain principles in your life will lead you in the right direction, and having those as a country, having certain moral foundations, certain, you know, biblical principles that are just like hard rock morality, makes it better than just being like, you know, do as thou will and everybody just does whatever. It's like, yeah, I kind of lean with the conservatives on that side. But overall, you know, I'm going to take some of your comments from now, but I do want to do an overarching theme from libertarians to Republicans. I'm a registered Republican. I think they're the lesser two evils. I vote Republican at this point. I'm going to vote locally, even nationally. You know, Trump's not my first, second, or third choice for 2024, but we'll see what happens. And if he could even run in the first place, you know, we'll see how all that FBI stuff ends up ending. But my big, and I hope people pay attention, because like I said, when I say this, some people can't handle it because they've never heard it. So they immediately think, well, if Anomaly's questioning Trump and Anomaly's questioning the Republican Party, he must be a liberal, or he must be a Democrat, or it's blue anon, or it's like, that's not it at all. I'm actually further right than the Republican Party economically. I would even argue socially I'm further right than them, but I don't even see them really as that right wing if you look at a scale. If you look at a scale of libertarianism, economically, anarchy, and then you go the other way, socialism, communism, I would say that the Republican Party is a left-wing party when it comes to policy. In no way, shape, or form did they keep the free market alive. In no way, shape, or form did they cut government spending. They printed more money in 2020 than ever. And to those who will argue and say, but they had to because of a pandemic, you're now a socialist. That's the same thing the socialists say. Well, we have to do this because of the poor. Well, we have to do this because of the climate. Well, we have to do this for the environment. Well, we have to do this because of racism. And now you have a bunch of MAGA right-wingers running circles around Trump saying, we have to print the money because of the virus. It's like, what? You have to print trillions of dollars and be a communist because there's a virus? He got fooled. Okay, well, maybe it's our message to say, don't do that again, versus like, we'll just make excuses for it and wear red hats. It's like, what's the point? So, you know, that's my big criticism of the Republican Party under Trump, before Trump, and after Trump, is that they're not libertarian or even Republican. I think they're socialist, and they're going to continue to do so because they don't really care that much. You get what I'm saying? Like, Tim Scott doesn't care. Tim Scott doesn't care that he was on stage bragging about socialism. He's just a Republican, and that's what they do. They just stand there and say things and print money and sign executive orders. And here's where I differ with not all, but a lot of the MAGA movement. everybody will say, well, anomaly, I was with you until you put Trump in it. He's different. On one hand, I do see the benefit of him. I think he's a unique person and nobody's like him. At the same time, this is the danger of having somebody so charismatic. A brilliant politician is one who can convince you that he's not one. You get what I'm saying? If Ted Cruz runs in 2024, nobody thinks he's not a politician. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's going to be on his ass because they're like, yeah, he's just another politician. But with Trump, the brilliance of him is he's convinced hundreds of millions of people that he's not like them, but in some ways he's not. In many ways he actually is. So now the whole Republican movement is basically hijacked at this point by a vaccine salesman where everyone says, anomaly, yeah, but everybody but Trump. And I'm like, can we please throw Trump into that category? Not to badmouth him and hate him and, not vote for him if you don't want to, but throw him in that category because he needs to have accountability. He was the leader of the Republican Party. He printed trillions of dollars. He gave the CDC executive powers to do communism. He gave Big Pharma tens of billions of dollars, not through the free market. He did it through socialism. And then he used the government to buy their product after he already gave them a big handout. That's all socialism. He did socialism. So it wasn't all Mitch McConnell, it was Trump too. And when it comes to the lockdowns, although the federal government wasn't the exact people who did it all, you have to understand Trump is the quarterback of the Republican Party. He was on stage with Dr. Birx and Fauci. He said 15 days to slow the spread. He extended it and rolled out a phase plan, and he started bad-mouthing liberty and started promoting lockdowns. Just like in 2021, he ran around the country selling vaccines and providing cover for Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson, and so did Sarah Huckabee Sanders, or as I like to famously call her, Sarah Cuckabee Sanders, because Sarah Cuckabee Sanders ran around the South, which was under-vaccinated, and told everybody to get the Trump vaccine. You know what that's called? Controlled opposition. It's when your favorite people are literally selling you down the river. Yeah, Sarah Cuckabee, maybe if everybody goes and gets their Trump vaccine and we can reach that critical 90%, oh wait, herd immunity's not going to come since it doesn't stop you from getting the virus, but herd slavery might come from that, Sarah Cuckabee, because if everybody complies, then they keep doing it. The only reason they're rescinding it right now is because a majority of the country didn't get their third shot and fourth shot, and mass testing is still going to be here when everybody gets tested. Sorry, but here's my message. I've never had a PCR test shoved up against my nose because I don't want one, and I'm not a cattle, so I don't just run around for goodies. Oh, I want to go to Coachella. Doink. I want to travel. Doink. I want to go to work. Doink. I want access to here. Doink. If you don't want the elites to treat you like cattle, you got to stop acting like cattle. I'm not trying to be rude, but it's like, that's my message as a man, as an American citizen. I've never had a PCR test because I understand how they're counting deaths and cases, and I'm not a factory farm animal where I'm going to shove something up my nose in order to get a special goodie in the society. They lure you in like a van with candy. It's like, hey, little kids, do you want candy? Yeah, and you run over and then they throw you in the van. It's the same thing with the testing. So if every MAGA person just never shoved a PCR test up their nose canal, this would have all ended 2 years ago. But instead, you have Donald Trump running around the country selling vaccines for Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and Sarah Cuckabee Sanders going to the South where it's under-vaccinated, the Bible Belt where these people are keeping us away from mass tyranny, and trying to get them to cave so they're just another statistic on the big pharma number. I mean, this is deceitful, disgraceful, pathetic, controlled opposition behavior, but nobody cares. You know why? Because these people have brainwashed the right into thinking, we're the better ones. Oh, I'm Sarah Huckabee Sanders fighting the rhinos. And everyone's like, and I'm Donald Trump fighting the rhinos. Anomaly, you're totally wrong. You don't get it. Trump's fighting the rhinos. Okay, disprove something I said in this entire, 47-minute, apparently, allegedly speech. You can't. There's nothing. What are you going to say? They really did socialism. They really did communism. They really ran around for Big Pharma trying to get you to inject their products. That's not good leadership. They've learned nothing. They don't care. They're never going to change, and they don't have to change because people treat them like royalty. So my message is, when it comes to Libertarian versus Republican, if you really want to go to the, there's the word Republican was in this book. This is from 1850, and it was lowercase because at one point, like democracy is a word, a Democrat's a party, but a Democrat at one point was probably a word too, or democratic is a word. Republican was a word before it was a party, and it was supposed to mean something. I believe they were basing it off Republican societies in Greek and or Greece and all these other people that had laid down the foundation of democracy or republic. You get what I'm saying? Whatever America pretended to be a republic. So the word Republican used to mean something. And if Republicans actually were Republican, they would be more libertarian. Maybe not completely, but enough where they'd realize taxes are too much. We can't sign these bills. But they do over and over and over again. And they always find somebody that convinces you that they're totally different when they're not that different, and just keeps the ball rolling. So that's my message to Republicans as a registered Republican is please learn, educate yourselves, have a spine, and just call out even your favorite people until they change, or else they're never going to change. And my solution, by the way, I would say, people try to say I'm pessimistic, but at the end of the day, I look at our country and I truly think that we're stuck on loop. I think we're stuck in like a time warp loop. Like we could be Jetson style building things. There's other countries building amazing things. What's America doing? Sending our money to Ukraine, running circles around Trump with this raid, printing a bunch of money with this BS, Green New nonsense. Our country's stuck in like a time warp loop, and you get what you ask for. I'm all about self-accountability because our country deserves Biden versus Trump again. Who does the right wing want? They want Donald Trump back. So yeah, that's your guy. You deserve him, right? Who does the left want? Maybe they don't want Joe Biden, but they deserve Joe Biden. Their behavior, the Democratic Party and the media and all these people's behavior over the last 4 years, if you put their behavior in a time machine and shook it up or whatever, a manifestation machine, literally Joe Biden would pop out. So it's like, I don't think our country deserves anything different. I'm actually at peace with the fact that people haven't learned anything. And, Trump and Biden is who people want. 2 80-year-old liars, vaccine salesmen, lobbied by Big Pharma, who are just going to yell at each other while they print a bunch of money and sign an executive order. So that's what we're going to get. So my white pill of the day, or my optimism of the day is, Trump or Biden are not going to save you. They're not going to change your life in any sort of super drastic way. I mean, they definitely might help you with gas prices and foreign policy. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. Use your God-given talent, breath of, morning. You wake up, like every day is not guaranteed. Do what you got to do to make yourself healthier, happier. If you do a business, focus on yourself. If you're at work, that's on you. Enjoy your life. If you want to change where you're at, you have to strategically do it. You can't just complain every day and say, I wish I was somewhere else. Enjoy where you are while you're there, and then start building in your off hours, at lunch, when you're home, during the job, when you have free time. Start crafting that life and building the path to where you want to get. And that's what it is. So I'm very optimistic, but it's because I focus on myself and, I try to fill the void of things that I don't really like in the media and politics, etc. And I think that's the future, because at this point, the left wants Biden, or they're going to get Biden. The right wants Trump back for the most part, and people don't want to really look at the bigger picture. So that's my take. The Democratic Party is a big government socialist party moving towards communism, and they're openly big government. They don't care. It's big government will save your life, and the Republicans are fascists because they want to make government smaller. And the Republican Party, they pretend to be free market capitalists and libertarians, but they're really just socialists and even communists when it's convenient. They pass the executive orders, they print the money, they run around for Big Pharma, they try to con you into getting things so, that you reach that critical mass. I mean, at this point, whether they mean to be or not, I consider nearly the entire party-controlled opposition, yet they're the lesser of two evils. So I still think there's strategy to vote for it, but, change yourself to change the world on a personal level and on a party level. When the Democrats change themselves, they'll get better people than Biden and Kamala. Right now, that's what they deserve. I mean, it's a soulless party. Who's better than Kamala No Soul Harris? She's the perfect vice president, right? You lose your soul in, pursuit of hating Donald Trump on the left wing. You get Kamala at vice president. You act insane and demented over your Trump derangement syndrome because you hate Trump so much you're willing to not think anymore. You get Joe Biden. And if people want the vaccine salesman who did socialism and communism and they don't want to even think about it because it hurts their brain too much, or he's not Biden, or he's fighting the rhinos, then you get Trump again. You know what I'm saying? If they don't try to fake arrest him or whatever because of the FBI raids. So, you know, when the Democrats wake up, they'll get better leadership. When Republicans wake up, they'll get better leadership. But for now, I think Republicans are trending in the right direction, but Trump has them kind of stuck in a time loop. And Democrats, I can't really speak on what they're doing. I don't know if you guys watched yesterday, but I talked to Eric Griffin, right? Really nice guy, comedian. He's more liberal, but he's very open-minded and he's willing to talk. You know, at the end of the podcast, I don't know if you guys saw that one, but I asked Eric, because he's, you know, lives in the Los Angeles area, like a lot of people. And I was like, are you going to vote Democrat again? And he didn't really answer. And it's like, I'm like, man, I get Republicans can be corrupt too, but it's like LA is a disaster. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know what people are thinking anymore. So I'm like, you don't want to switch that up, you know? And same with on the right. So a lot of that. Thank you guys for being here. I'm going to put a few of your comments on the screen. I'm going to hang out for a little while. And thank you guys for being here. I want to say real quick, I revamped my Facebook supporter page. I have 2 new videos for it. They were older and I made them new. Thank you to everybody on Facebook supporters. We will do a private live stream this week. So if you're on Facebook and watching, if you're already a supporter, we will do a private live stream. If you're not, you could join. And patreon.com/raretalk. I have 3 private podcasts, secret podcasts for $5 a month. I just did my 4th with my anonymous friend. He calls himself MAGA Man. So if you want to hear the private podcast, I'm gonna do it tonight. But thank you to Patreon and Facebook, because that's like a stable certain amount I get every month, and you know, monetization goes up and down drastically. So I'm really grateful that you guys have supported me there and on my shop and stuff. Excuse me. I'll read some comments. Someone said, "You're delusional. Biden is demonic and a traitor. Trump will stand up against China and Mexico." I don't know what you're talking about. So I don't like Biden. I consider him the worst politician of the modern era. So why you think I said anything about... I said Democrats deserve Joe Biden, meaning Democrats are lost, and that's good representation since they're lost. Trump will stand up against China and Mexico. I don't think you heard a single word I said. So I'm just going to... This is the issue, man. People just spiral. That's not even what I'm talking about. I'm talking about domestic policy, basic economics. If you don't want to hear what I said, then you can have your whole own argument. I'm not trying to be rude to you, my brother, God bless you, but I think like Sean Hannity's more your speed, possibly the deranged Mark Levin, who tells you that you should funnel your money to a foreign, leader in Ukraine. I'm not trying to be rude, but you got to listen to somebody like that, because if you come to my page with that type of energy, you're not getting it. No offense. Let me see. Someone said Donald Trump, Rand Paul, or Ron DeSantis for president 2024. Nothing's going to change until the base actually learns things. Like, I don't know. I don't know what planet people are living on. The testing thing is the perfect example, because if every libertarian, conservative, patriot, person who wants to fight communism, if everybody decided for 3 weeks, we're not taking a PCR test against our will, this would have ended a year and a half ago. But everyone's like, oh, I'm going to fight China and I'm going to shove a PCR test up my nose again. It's like, nothing's going to change until people actually figure out what they're doing. So I know, and I'm not trying to act like I'm so special, but I know that every Trump supporter did not do what I do. I have friends that do this stuff all the time. I'm such a liberty, a freedom, doink, I want to go to Coachella. Freedom, doink, I want to go travel. It's like, well, now we're going to suffer for decades because you wanted to be a special boy and get your goodies. And, I'm at the point where I just don't feel bad for anybody anymore, because this is not just... It's not just the left wing doing socialism. It's also the right wing. It's not just the left wing complying to medical tyranny. It's also the left wing. As our famous leaders, Sarah Huckabee Sanders and Trump, run around the country telling people to get the Trump vaccine. Like, the fact that people don't see it is insane to me, but I'm done trying to, make people see it. If you don't see it, I don't care. It's like, I get it. People don't get it. They're going to keep making the same mistakes. I don't know if this sounds selfish, but it's on me to focus on my life, my health, my business. And that's, I'm literally mind my own business, because people literally want to just trip over their own shoes over and over and over again. So there's no point in trying to, get people to see it if they don't. Let me see. We'll read some more comments. Rick Astley, 2024, he's never going to give up or let you down. It is true. He's never going to turn around and hurt you. Never going to make you cry. Never going to say goodbye. Never going to turn around. Appreciate that. Thank you. I heard Kristi Noem's running in 2024. I don't know, but I guess, it's really up to the base. Like if you go to most people who are supporting Trump and you ask them, what's your top 5 like priorities? Like my top 5 priorities, there's rough, but like medical tyranny's got to go. Like you got to stop printing the money. You got to stop doing socialism and communism. You got to stop giving big pharma money. You can't hire a bunch of swamp people to run our health agencies. Like these are things that I care about. But if you ask the average Republican, they don't care. They're like, election fraud, voter fraud, China. And it's like, yeah, I get what you're saying. The elections need to be fair for sure. But there is no agenda to change all this stuff. The agenda is just literally say what Trump says and run in circles around him. It's not going to change. So I don't care if Kristi Noem runs, Trump runs. You change yourself to change the world. The base is almost there, but they don't quite get it. This FBI raid, in all honesty, it almost might work in the Republicans' favor because like people are like, yeah, maybe we got to actually do something this time. It's like it took you the FBI raid on Trump to figure out that the Republicans needed to do more. Like before this, I sounded crazy for a year being like, guys, even if Republicans win, you got to make sure they don't do what they did in 2020. And people are like, shut up, dude. They're going to fight Biden. And like now that Trump got raided, people are like, oh, maybe next time we get in, we should like really pressure Republicans to actually do something. It's like, yeah, for sure. Or else, people are like, if they could raid Trump, it could happen to you. It's already happened to dozens of Trump supporters. What do you mean if Trump could get raided? It already happened to Trump supporters. Dozens of people already got raided by the FBI for following him to the Capitol. If they could do that to Trump, what else could they do? I don't know. Maybe lock the whole country down, make kids fatter, and take away sports for a year. Oh, they already did that in 2020. Nobody even remembers 2020 because Trump doesn't talk about it unless he's selling the vaccine. And Democrats just act like it's good. People are stuck in a time warp. Literally, people are being brainwashed by both sides. They're literally like, my whole life is just revolves around Trump, but he's not saying anything important. He's not saying he's just saying the same 5 things on loop. He's turning people into right-wing NPCs. It's like, if the FBI could do that, what else is capable? I don't know. Maybe if that could happen, maybe the government could lock the country down for a year and print trillions of dollars and, take away your businesses and kill hundreds of thousands of restaurants. That would be scary if that it already happened. It already happened in 2020. And guess who's talking about it? Nobody. Because everybody's like, what about Trump? It's like people are trapped in this Marvel movie. It's like either Orange Man good and he's going to save the world from China and Mexico, or Orange Man bad and he's a fascist and the only way to beat Orange Man is Rob Reiner's going to, and Stephen King is going to tweet things and Kathy Griffin's going to yell at you. It's like people are literally trapped in a Marvel movie. I'm curious. I don't know because I don't watch movies or TV at all. I'm talking zero. I've seen nothing in the last decade. Very rare. I'm wondering if this is brainwashing people. People watch so many television shows and movies that they just treat the world like a movie. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, I don't I don't know what's wrong with me, but I just don't like movies anymore. I think they're creepy. Everything about it, it's just fake actors. I don't like it. But people watch so much TV and movies that they think they need to pick a character. It's like, he's a hero. He's my hero. He's a villain. He's the villain. What if neither were true? What if it's not a Marvel movie and it's not, Deadwood on Netflix and it's just there's lobbyists and foreign countries and, powerful people like banks who literally stand over top of these two puppets? What if they're just playing them like marionettes and the guy that you think's a hero is not really a hero and the guy that you think's a villain not really a villain? Is that a possibility or no? Are we just playing Marvel for the next 10 years? We got to run circles around Trump and Biden, and it's it's wild. But someone said I was never a big movie person. People love movies. I don't want to sound but I'm just wondering if that's programming people to think that it's a big thing. I don't know. Someone said that was the DEA, but the difference is we need to end all the alphabet soups. Well, I mean, definitely just rein them in. And I mean, I don't know, at this point, government's so big, it's such a task, but someone's got to do something. Here's, I guess, to be 100% fair, and hopefully people that really like Trump can hear me out, because I'm going to be as nice as I could possibly be. If I'm not asking Trump, I mean, I know there's a lot of people that are like, get rid of the FBI. I'm not asking Trump to do that. I know that's like an impossible task. I'm not asking him to end everything and close everything up. But here's the thing. I am watching what he's signing. So let's just say Trump didn't get any of these things done, but he got in a Supreme Court justice and he got in this person. I wouldn't even be as annoyed as I am now. He's signing executive orders making government bigger. He's signing executive orders making an entire new branch of the military. He's signing an executive order to give the CDC power. He's signing $1 trillion bill. So I wouldn't even be annoyed at Trump if he just didn't do that. Even if he did status quo, roll the ball, get rid of a few things, but I'm not asking Trump to abolish every intelligence community. I know it's not that easy. It's easy to sit on there and be like, I'm a libertarian, get rid of it all. Yeah, I'm not stupid. I know that that's either not possible or extremely difficult to do. I'm not asking him to do all that, but he isn't who you think he is. And until you realize that, you're just going to keep tripping over your own feet. He's signing crazy bills that are things Democrats would sign. You know, there's something that Obama passed, it was or flipped. It was called the Smith-Mundt Act. So before Obama re-put the Smith-Mundt Act in, propaganda domestically in certain areas was illegal. It wasn't legal for the government to propagandize their own people. Obama passed the Smith-Mundt Act and reversed it. So I don't know if it was the Pentagon or what branch of the government it was. They were allowed to spew out domestic propaganda. So if things seem a little bit different from the time Obama got in office, I know a lot of people that dislike Obama are like, something changed during his administration. It's never been the same. I'm not saying this is the only thing, but the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act is something that probably changed America forever because propaganda became re-legal. When Trump got in, he didn't overturn that. So if Trump is this guy that wants to stop you from propaganda, why didn't he overturn it? He doesn't care. Why did he reenact the Patriot Act? Because he doesn't care about you. Why did he sign a huge executive order for Big Pharma to modernize vaccines? Because he doesn't care about you. Why did he print $1 trillion? Why did he sign Operation Warp Speed? Why did he run around the country selling vaccines? Why did he sign an executive order if he's trying to fight the deep state? Why is he putting his pen to paper and signing away your freedom in a communist fashion to the CDC? He did that. I'm gonna show this again if you're missing it, guys. Even if Trump didn't do anything with the intelligence communities, etc., I would give him a pass if he actually just didn't do all this communist nonsense. But he did so much crazy stuff with his pen. He's not even trying to do what you think he's doing. If he was trying, he wouldn't sign his pen to these things. So, you know, my thing is freezing, unfortunately, but I'm going to try to play it again once it just reloads, and then we'll keep it moving. But, you know, here it is. Let's watch this again. So this was, if he would have just not done this, then I would have been like, okay, yeah, you know, he can't get rid of the intelligence communities because, you know, that's not possible. But he signed an executive order with his pen to give the Center for Disease Control authority to halt evictions. He gave federal power to the CDC to strangle landlords. I mean, metaphorically, not literally. This is Karl Marx's dream, guys. This is not a Biden one. And I don't like Biden. Don't get it twisted. Let's move on. I guess I can't move it on until it moves on itself. But the next slide is the really telling one. Once it comes, give me a few seconds. The agency order, the result of an August 8th executive action by Trump, directed the CDC to study this issue, would impose criminal penalties on landlords who violate the ban. He gave the CDC federal executive power through an executive order to do Karl Marx's literally #1 part of the manifesto, is take away your private property. You know, strangle small businesses, landlords. That's Karl Marx's dream. Do you get what I'm saying? Someone said there was a pandemic. Understand that you're now a socialist. You're not a libertarian. You're a Donald Trump socialist by saying, well, there's a pandemic. Well, there's climate change, so we got to be a communist. Well, there's a pandemic, so we got to do communism. But there's a fire, so we got to do communism. But there's racism, so we got to do communism. But there's poverty, so we got to do communism. There's a war, let's do communism. I mean, do you realize that you've become a socialist in pursuit to make excuses for communism? You're not a Republican. You're a Donald Trump communist. That is communism. Just say it's wrong. Say, oh, wow, I didn't know that that happened. That's really bad. Instead of being like, well, if this comes along, there's communism. I did a debate with this left-wing guy named Mitch on my Instagram, and he's a Democrat. And I told him about Zelensky. So, this democracy in Ukraine, that's total authoritarianism. He banned 11 political parties. He consolidated all the media like a communist, Zelensky. He, is seizing assets from people that are Russian. So pretty much anyone who disagrees with his foreign policy, he's seizing assets. Zelensky is a full-blown authoritarian communist. And this left-winger I was debating said, that's fine because it's a war. Follow me. So I said, I told him as a left-winger, you're fine with a president banning left-wing parties and seizing authoritarian power if there's a war? And he said, yeah. I'm like, would you be fine with Donald Trump doing that? And he's like, oh, yeah. I'm like, so if you get what I'm saying, let's reverse engineer it. If you allow a Republican or a Democrat as a left or right winger, if you say, well, if this happens, then they can do this, that's going to happen because they want to do that. You get what I'm saying? Reverse engineering it. If you say because of a pandemic, he can do communism, you're going to get those. And there's going to be more communism. If you say if a war breaks out, then someone can seize dictator status, then a war is going to break out and you're going to get a dictator. You can't justify this stuff from happening or else it's going to keep happening. So it's just fascinating stuff. And that's the point I'm trying to get to people. I'm not one of these guys that says, if Donald Trump doesn't completely drain the swamp, then he's a bad guy. It's not that easy. But Donald Trump doesn't have to sign executive orders giving the CDC communist power. He did, though. He doesn't care. No one cares. No offense, but, David Harris, a good guy. I follow him. He follows me. He's not going to talk about this. DC Drano is my friend. He's not going to talk about this. No one's going to talk about this. Everyone's just going to rally up the base to think that Trump's going to do all these great things. They don't want to point out that he did communism and socialism. And I'm not trying to be mean, but at a certain point, this is bigger than just like, this is bigger than us. This is bigger than our following. This is the future of our country. Are we going to turn into a communist Black Mirror 1984 episode, or are we going to be liberty-based people again? We're never going to be liberty-based people because nobody in the Republican Party cares anymore. They care about just sniffing Trump's butthole. They don't care that he did communism. I can prove that he did it. Yeah, but it's okay if there's a pandemic. It is? So if another one happens, you're okay with communism now? You're going to get one then. Because if they know that you'll justify it with a Republican president doing it, you're going to get that, It's so obvious. It's so easy. So I'm not asking him to reinvent the wheel. I'm not asking him to abolish every intelligence community. It's not possible. I'm just asking him to not be a communist or a socialist. I'm asking Donald Trump, maybe you can't do all these things, but maybe you could put your pen down and stop signing away trillions of dollars, billions of dollars to big pharma. I've read it before, but go read his executive order of 2019 to big pharma. He allowed Alex Azar and all his friends to come together and create a modernizing vaccine executive order. I mean, guys, all this stuff was brewing. He didn't put the pen down. It's not like he was like, oh, let me just not be. He did it all proudly. So my point is, it's never going to change until people pay attention. If everybody in the Republican Party, everybody at the Trump rally knew what I knew and cared about it, it would end tomorrow. But if people don't care, it's never going to end because there's no push for it to end. I went to Turning Point USA. Ted Cruz got treated like he was Michael Jackson and Prince combined. Ted Cruz deserves to get booed because Ted Cruz sent $50 billion of socialist funny money to Ukraine in an inflation crisis. Ted Cruz said he wanted masks to come off of only vaccinated people last year, but he gets treated like Prince at a rock festival. Why would these people stop doing what they're doing? They have no incentive. This is why it's so bad. It's called, I wouldn't say backlash, but feedback. This is why it was so evil when YouTube, they used to have up likes and down likes, and YouTube took away the down likes. Now you can't see the down likes anymore. Do you guys remember when Joe Rogan had on Jack Dorsey of Twitter and their friends or whatever, and it got so many down likes? It got more down likes than Joe Rogan's ever seen, because Joe Rogan was being a softball interview on Jack Dorsey, who deserved some questions. It got so unpopular that he brought on Tim Pool to debate with Jack Dorsey, in order to please his base, because his fan base was so upset at that crappy interview. No offense, but it's just true. Joe knows that. That's why he did a second one. This is why feedback is so important, guys. This is why the up like, down like thing is so important. When you down like a video, that doesn't mean I hate Joe Rogan. It means I like Joe Rogan, or maybe you don't like him. But in general, it's like thumbs down, that sucked, do better. And Joe saw the thumbs down and he said, I'll do better. And he did do better. This is why I want people to boo Ted Cruz, boo Tim Scott, boo Rick Scott, boo Trump. They need to be booed. They need more thumbs down than thumbs up. As long as they have more thumbs up than thumbs down, you're not getting anything different. I'm not the bad guy here. I understand how life works, Thumbs down. Give these people... Dude, Trump is still treated like he's a rock star, and he ran around the country providing cover for Big Pharma. We're all busting our butts doing research, trying to show you about the liability, trying to show you about the data, trying to show you that Fauci and Rochelle Walensky are lying to you. And Trump's running around the country providing cover for him. I did the vaccine. I saved the world. It's the greatest thing ever. And then Sarah Huckabee Sanders is like, howdy, y'all, take the Trump vaccine. And these people are getting cheered. They deserve to get booed and ratioed. That's why YouTube removed the boo, because it was effective. They saw, I bet you it was to cover for Biden and Big Pharma, because on all these pharma ads and all these Biden ads, it was like 95% thumbs down. So YouTube looked at it and they said, oh shoot, we need to take away these thumbs down, because then the whole world's going to realize the illusion's fake and people really don't like Big Pharma and Joe Biden. So they took away the thumbs down on YouTube, and now you can't see anything anymore. It's the same psychology with the Republican Party. Boo them. Boo Donald Trump. Boo Ted Cruz. It's the only way they're going to change. If not, I promise you, you're getting socialism, you're getting communism, and socialism defined by Marx, there's probably many times he talked about it, but it's a road to communism. Socialism leads to communism. It's the collapse of capitalism, and communism is what's going to fill the void. And if you look at communism, it's a monopoly on most industries and removal of private property. If you look at 2020 under the Republicans, they did a lot of those things, and they're not going to change because they're unapologetic. Let's see. Read some comments real quick. Someone said, hold your own old men running your country accountable. I agree. And here's the thing with Ron DeSantis, in my opinion. I don't fully trust Ron DeSantis, but I listened to a Trump speech and a Ron DeSantis speech. And Ron DeSantis' speech, say what you want about the guy, everything was to the point. I did this for the Special Olympics, I did this for COVID tyranny. He talked about COVID tyranny, and everything was, I did this. Say what you want about DeSantis. You might not trust him. You probably shouldn't. You might not like him. You don't have to. But it's not a big circus when DeSantis is in town. I'm just being honest. It's like, here's what I wanted to do, so I did it. DeSantis isn't dumb, so he actually puts teams together to do things, and he understands how government works. Rand Paul, they understand how government works. You can't just talk and tweet. You have to strategically figure out what to do. He knows it. So if DeSantis won, I'm not saying that you should trust everything he does and not pay attention, but you're not going to get this whole circus. So even if you disagree with DeSantis, you could say, hey, that's what I disagree with. With Trump, it's like a big circus. So it's like you can't even get to the core of what he's doing because it's always a big show around it. I almost prefer at this point somebody who will just get it done, not cause such a scene. Even if I completely disagree with DeSantis' policy, it just feels like it would be easier to point out, because with Trump, there's always a big show. Like, you listen to Trump's speech, it's like a big show. It's like, 20-minute joke. And I like him. He's funny to an extent, but, he's really funny. But when I like him, I'm like, not really that much anymore, to be honest. But you get what I'm saying? It's like his speech is like a big show. It's not like, here's what I did. It's like, here's a 30-minute story of a plane landing, and here's how I wanted to give myself a Presidential Medal of Freedom. It's like, okay, it's funny, but Someone said Mike Lindell is the QAnon shaman. Hey, listen, Patriots, my pillow. I do a bad Mike Lindell impression, but he probably isn't the QAnon shaman, but I've seen crazier things. That's pretty funny, though. Someone said, I'm all Trump, he's being bullied. Thank you for staying the whole time, Junior, but hopefully you listened to something I said. That's fine. I'm fine with Trump winning if people just hold him accountable. The Joe Rogan thing's the perfect example, folks. People like Joe Rogan, everybody gave him thumbs down, and he actually had to correct himself at the time. It's the perfect example. Feedback is good. Give him feedback. Trump did bad in 2020. He did communism, but nobody wants to say it, and everybody wants to act like it's so crazy to say. Then I'm going to just focus on myself and watch Republicans just trip over their feet. It's like Lucy with the football. Zwink. You know, we've been saying this for years now. Zwink. But Anomaly, you don't get it. We're going to Trump. Zwink. But Anomaly, no, it's blink. He's going to get it this time with the Jared Kushner. Blink. You know, dude, you don't understand. Mike Pompeo's loyal to Israel. I mean, America. Blink. You know, no, dude, Anomaly. I mean, yeah, he might have put in a pharmacy lobbyist, but he's got to fight the deep. Doink. You know, Anomaly. I mean, yeah, he did communism, but it was a pandemic. Doink. You know, it's like, Anomaly. You don't understand. He's fighting Fauci by working with Fauci. Doink. You know, Anomaly. You don't understand. He's got to give Big Pharma a bunch of money to expose him. Doink. So, you know, that's where I'm at with it. If people want to just keep missing the football, I like Charlie Brown. I'll just keep watching you guys kick and miss for like 10 years, and I'll hopefully accumulate enough money where I can afford private security as the whole country crumbles or something. But in general, I mean, I am my own private security, but you get what I'm saying. I think when things get bad, I don't think America's going to be in a civil war. I don't think that's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is areas are going to get crappy, and it's going to end up being like going to an island. You know, if you have money and you're staying somewhere nice and you have security, you're fine. But for the rest of people, it's just like a power vacuum, you know? Like it's not like CNN watchers are going to fight Fox News and Tim Pool watchers in the street. It's not going to happen. It's going to be like a power vacuum. Things are going to slowly crumble. And as things crumble and people don't respect the law and people don't have a sense of morality, things are just going to get more and more ugly. It was like when I was talking to Eric Griffin the other day. I love Eric. He's a great guy, super funny. I'll talk to him again. But I'm like, I don't even care. I obviously do care a little bit, but I'm like, dude, I used to live in LA, and like he, you know, like him and a bunch of like, they're like, I'm like, I don't even care anymore, because to me it's so blatantly obvious how to run that city better, and the Democrats are just scamming everybody, but if people don't get it, you could figure it out, because it's like, I'm not going there. I don't go to LA. I don't go to New York City. I really mean what I say at this point. I want no part of those cities. I don't care what the people there think. But Anomaly, I live in New York City and I'm a liberal and I think that you're cool. Then enjoy living in the streets that literally smell like shit. And I do have some sympathy for people who are born there. I think if you're born and raised there, you know, and you feel a connection to the city because your family's from there, there's nothing wrong with staying and being a real one in the city. But for me, it's like, if you're one of these hipster liberals and they're like, Anomaly, I think you're crazy. It's like, cool. Stay in New York City, smell the crap, you know, rats running all over your feet, like people getting robbed in broad daylight, pushed on train tracks, elderly people getting punched in the face. Like, if that's your idea of how to run a city, then knock yourself out literally, because that's what's going to happen. You're going to get knocked out. I saw a video recently of some lady getting punched in the face in Hollywood, and I said, and some guy responded, I said, do not eat on the streets of Hollywood. It's not safe there. You know, have your head on a swivel when you're there. And some guy was like, Anomaly, most of the city's safe. You're not going to pick up a lot of conservatives that way. I think this guy was a conservative, but he probably lived in LA. And he's like, you know, stop telling people not to eat outside. Listen, I lived in LA for almost 10 years. Guess what happened? Even when I lived there, I always had my head on a swivel. I lived in Hollywood, not in the hills, in the shitty area. And guess what? I didn't eat outside even 5 years ago. My friends always thought I was paranoid. They're like, oh, you're so stupid. I'm not stupid. I'm smart. I'm not paranoid. I'm prepared. I'm not scared. I'm alert. I'm like a soldier. You know what I'm saying? I consider it a war zone. I lived in Hollywood for 8 years. I had to walk streets by crackheads, gang members, you know, take buses. I did it all. I'm not scared. I'm not dumb. I know how the city works. We don't live in Scooby-Doo land. You know, this isn't SpongeBob's new episode. It's a freaking city and a lot of bullshit's going on. So this guy was like, don't say that to people. No, that's my advice, is don't eat outdoors in Hollywood. Even before it's as shitty as it is now, it's even worse now. I did that when I lived there. In Beverly Hills, don't wear an expensive watch because you'll get probably robbed at gunpoint at some point, or your chances are going up extraordinarily. It's not safe there anymore. So if you don't want me to say that, I don't care. I'm at the point now, I'm not trying to be rude, but it's like, do what if you want to act like LA's so cool and safe, then live there and tweet about it. I don't care. I'm not coming. I don't care, New York City. I'm not coming. Not for a show, not for a sports game, not for a comedy event, not if I get paid. I don't want to be in Sodom, and I don't want to be in Gomorrah. I mean it. So if you don't agree with me on Twitter, I don't care, because I've lived that life for 9 years. I watched it go downhill. I'm watching it at an all-time low, or a recent all-time low, and all the people there, this is why nothing gets done, because they're like, it's like, yeah, that's exactly why the city's the way it is. And no offense, but that's what I'm trying to say to the Republican Party. That's why nothing changes, because everyone's like, well, you know, with the mass testing, everyone's like, anomaly, and shoving PCR tests up their nose. It's our own fault. I don't blame just the elites. It's our fault. You know, LA, the people there want to have a hipster conversation on Twitter of how it's not safe or how it is safe. If you think it's safe, go there. I think it's not, so I don't go. Sure, not everybody's getting robbed, but enough to make it not a fun place to go. I live there. I know what it's like. I probably know better than this guy. Cool. Feel that way? Go. You get what I'm saying? It's like, this is the whole attitude of LA, but I don't know if I'm going to vote Democrat or Republican, and it's not that bad. And it's like, then live there. I'm not coming. But anomaly, I think the Republican Party is just fine, and it's on its way to capitalism. It's not. I don't think so. You know, that's the attitude of why things keep staying the same. I'm 32. When I'm like, I honestly, we'll see what happens, but when I'm like 60 and I just don't give a crap anymore, maybe I'll run for mayor or something somewhere. I don't like politics though, but I could fix things in a week if I actually had the power. And I don't know if it's as easy to do that, but it's like, I think I could solve homelessness in 2 weeks if I had the full authority to do whatever I wanted, which I probably don't. It's not that hard of a thing to solve. It's just nobody wants to do it. You know who understands how to solve homelessness? Carrie Lake, the left-wing Democrats of Arizona. They tweeted out, they're like, look at Carrie Lake's solution for the housing people. And it's like, we're now calling homeless housing people. We're too afraid to call homeless. They're housing people, transgendered housing people, whatever. So I read what Carrie Lake actually said, and she said exactly the right thing. She was basically like, you know, we'll get people help, but they can't be on the streets anymore, and we're getting rid of them. And it's like, yeah, that's the solution. Here, you need drug help? Go here. Oh, you need a house? Go here. You need a job? Go here. But here's what you can't do anymore in Arizona or California. You can't just shit on the streets. You can't just do, you know, fentanyl and freaking, you know, build 2-story shanties with prostitutes. You can't do that crap anymore. It's not being not compassionate. It's here's everything possible. You want that? You got that. You want that? You got that. You want that? You got that. But you're not allowed to just stay here anymore. You get what I'm saying? That's how you could solve homelessness instantly. Most of these people, they've never been told no recently. It's just like, you know, They have these BS homes that pop up. They let them shower. They let them eat. And then the people don't want to stay there because they want to, you know, they want to do drugs, and they'll drug test at certain facilities. So it's kindness is not weakness. Sometimes you have to be a little bit, I don't know if rude is the right word, but you got to push people. This is everything in life, folks. You know, you don't get stronger by not working out. You know, Trump's not going to do better if nobody holds him accountable and gives him a thumbs down. You know, homelessness is not going to go away if you just pat him on the back and give him like blank needles. Like, what are people thinking? I don't know. You know, I'm not, someone said tough love. It is, but it's like, I don't even consider myself, like, it's sad that I'm like one of the toughest people. I'm not saying I'm not tough. I am, but I'm just saying in general, it's like, I'm not even, you get what I'm saying? Like, it's not that hard. Everybody's so soft. I sound like a boomer now, just calling everybody soft, but it's like, anomaly, I was with you, but don't say anything to Trump. Don't tell the Republicans to get better. Don't say anything to the homeless. Don't make fun of New York City. You know, don't question LA. Anomaly, I'm a conservative. I was with you when you said all that, but the fact that you said that, you know, LA is unsafe hurt my feelings. It's like, Is this the game we're playing now? Everybody's so sensitive. The left is crying about everything. You can't talk about gender. You can't talk about housing people. You come to the right, we don't care, but don't talk about Trump, and don't call the Republican Party socialist. They're socialists. And I'm going to be honest. Most people don't know what socialism is and communism is because they haven't actually read the books. They're just listening to Republican speakers talk about it. And it's like, America will never be a socialist nation. And everyone's like, but they're literally doing socialism as they're saying that, according to the book, according to what it means, or at least the rough definition. So you get it. Someone said you carry fridges on your back for 5 something, you're a boomer. I don't know what you meant, but I am turning into a boomer for sure. I went to bed at like 10 o'clock yesterday, dude. I don't even go out on the weekends anymore. It's like I'm a boomer. I'm in bed by 11. I'm waking up at 5 o'clock, starting drinking a coffee. Big boomer energy here. I'm really a millennial, but let's see. Someone said communism is rejected on account of its errors. I'm not sure you meant by that, but I'm going to read your comments, guys. I got some energy and I want to stay for a little bit, but I'm going to read your comments for like a half hour probably because I got some energy, but I can't put them on the screen because I don't know what's going on. My computer's freezing or something. Let's see. Someone said as long as you're not a groomer. Yeah, obviously, but they're like banning people for saying that now. It's creepy. Someone said as a citizen, holding our politicians accountable is a must. This is especially true for the ones you vote for. Thank you, Andy. I feel like, have you guys ever seen Zoolander with Mugatu? He says, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I feel like Mugatu, where I'm like, everyone's like, we're with you, Anomaly. We're going to hold the rhinos accountable. I'm like, can we hold Trump accountable? They're like, no. I'm like, dude, what the heck? So this is the new movement, is hold all the Republicans accountable except for Donald Trump. Just make excuses for communism and big pharma scams because Trump did it. That's the MAGA movement. Then I want off the train. Come on, guys. It's why is this such a crazy concept? I'm so tired of it. But at the same time, it is pretty funny. It's like, we were with you, Anomaly, when you talked about holding Mitch McConnell accountable, but gosh darn it, Trump's going to fight China. And I'm like, he's better than Biden. Sure, for sure. But that doesn't mean that we have to act like we can't question him. Someone said a center for ants. Exactly, you get the Zoolander. Zoolander 3 is Zelensky doing cocaine with Ben Stiller. They're like, and then they're like, whoa, Ben Stiller's like, oh my gosh, it's so great to meet you. And Zelensky's like, well, as an actor-producer with Kvartal 95, who has put myself in a position to be president, it's great to see you. And they, Ben Stiller's like, do you have any extra cocaine? And he's like, psst. And then Ben Stiller gets on the TV and he's like, I think we need to give more money to Ukraine. I mean, there's not enough. What do we get? $50 billion, $60 billion. I mean, yeah, I know we're in not a recession, inflation scandal with high energy prices, but what if we just kept funneling money to a foreign country, to bolster their economy? And it's like, to quote the late, great Rick James, cocaine is a hell of a drug, okay? That's not promotion. I'm just quoting Rick James. It's like, what? Fact check Zelensky doesn't do cocaine. I know because I did cocaine with. Oh wait, no, I didn't do it. I didn't do it with cocaine. It's like, whatever. We get it. You want to cover up everything for big pharma. We get it. My fact checker video. I'm checking my email later. I didn't forget about it. If they didn't respond to me, I'm doing my fact checker video. Fact check. Cocaine is not in Zelensky's nostril. It's dust. It's just dust. He's just really excited because he's fighting Putin. He's fighting Putin really hard, so he just has dust in his nose. Whatever. For those who want bonus podcasts, as if I don't do enough publicly, you can check it out here at patreon.com/raretalk. I'm about to put up a secret podcast. It's called Dream Rare Podcast Secret Stash number 4 with my friend who wanted to anonymously go as MAGA Man because he didn't want to say his real name. So we call him MAGA Man. Yes, he is a MAGA Man. He loves Trump, and we had a great convo. It was fun. Someone said cocaine shrinks your brain. Well, you don't need a brain if you're just going to take American money. You know, as his brain gets smaller and smaller, he's like, what if I get more money from America? It's like, dude, where's that money going? They're like, I don't know. I mean, I do fact check. Whatever. Someone said politics shrinks your brain. Yeah, that too. Someone said if they had evidence against Donald Trump, then let people know to stop sabotaging a chance. I think they're reaching with Donald Trump. We talked about it earlier, but there's multiple angles to this, and I'm going to go through them because I don't want to just bore people who've heard it already. On one hand, they're always reaching Donald Trump. You know, I actually want to read an Alex Berenson tweet because Alex Berenson had something very interesting to say. He's the journalist who got kicked off of Twitter and back on. He worded it perfectly. Okay, I'm going to read his tweet. Ready? Alex said, hold on, I'm going to find it. Where is it? Hold on, I got to scroll. Sorry about that, folks. Alex, where is this guy? Come on, Alex, where are you, buddy? He had a good take on the whole like Trump FBI thing. Oh, here it is. Alex Berenson said, if the stakes weren't so high, it would almost be funny to watch the establishment destroy itself trying to take down Donald Trump. He has ruined the elite media, ruined it. They no longer even pretend at fairness, and now law enforcement seems to be falling in the same trap. He is the opposite of a subtle con man. He is loud and buffoonish, and yet somehow gives his enemies, who are so sure in their righteousness, nothing but smoke, until they throw off the very rules they have pledged to follow, the norms they want to uphold in their quest. I think that's pretty fair, whether you agree with his words or not. It's like, you know, he's like, Trump is kind of goofy, but at the same time, he always blows smoke at them, and they jump over the smoke, and they make absolute fools out of themselves. So I think on one hand, it absolutely seems like they're reaching against Trump, you know what I'm saying, and trying to overdo it. And my other take, which may or may not be popular, is, you know, when you say you're going to lock up Hillary Clinton, like that's quite the statement. If you don't lock Hillary Clinton up, when you say you're going to lock her up and everybody starts chanting lock her up, when Democrats get back in office, of course they're going to try to lock you up literally. So this is where I'm like, I'm not blaming Trump, but as a quarterback, it's like you said you're going to lock her up. You didn't lock her up. You flailed your arms at the Capitol. People didn't know what to do. People got in trouble. Like, you're not the, you know, on one hand, he has really run them in circles and exposed them. On another hand, it's like, you know, I don't know. It's a very dicey situation. Someone said, Anomaly, you look like one of my best friends from high school, LOL 1974. Appreciate it. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Hopefully he was a really cool looking guy. Let me see. Sorry, I put Jesus indeed on the screen. I appreciate it, but I got to stop putting things on the screen because then my whole like computer for some reason freezes. I don't know what's going on. I'll read a few more comments. So I got time today, and it's not my biggest live stream, but this is at the beginning. If you weren't here, I thanked everybody on Patreon. I thanked everybody on Facebook who's been giving stars, the top 10 star senders, and I'm really grateful, guys. As I'm waiting for new comments, I'll read them. You know, I'm not going to even like act like it's that hard because I've worked way harder jobs. I've said this in the past, not recently, but I'm just going to go through all my jobs real quick. Hold on a second. The first thing I did was I worked at a pizzeria. I was a cashier when I was like 15. I actually worked unlike kids nowadays. You know, I was a dishwasher. I worked at ShopRite, which is like a grocery store. I worked as a cashier at ShopRite. I also did like putting stuff away at CVS. I worked at CVS. I worked as a dishwasher. I worked at a library. I worked overnight stocking. That's really tough. You go there at 10 o'clock and you come out at 6 a.m. I mean, that was a really tough job. I didn't even get sunlight that summer. Long story short, then I worked for LA 7-8 years. I did everything in LA. I worked a lot of jobs. So this is like the easiest thing I've ever done, or at least it's the most fulfilling because I like doing it. So, you know, every day, I think I did like 8 streams this week, and most people don't do as much content as me. I'm not bragging, but there's people that have teams of 10 people and they do 1 stream a week. It's literally just me here. I do all the research. I mean, thanks to your help. A lot of people help me on Twitter and Instagram. They send me stuff, and I do appreciate some of your insight because I do try to look at it. But it's like I do all the intro video. It takes me like hours and stuff, and I'm still doing like 8 videos a week. You got people that got a whole team of like 20 people, and they do 1 video a week. So all I'm saying is, long story short, I work so hard because I'm passionate about it. It's fun, in my opinion. I like it. And really, the 2 things that help me the most, besides just people watching, is Patreon and the Facebook supporters. Because, you know, I still think I'm underrated, but I mean, that's debatable because things have already gotten pretty big. But, you know, without that, I really wouldn't be able to do this because I don't really have any major sponsors right now. I'm working on it. I mean, I would never like change anything, but you know, if a good ethical company that I actually respected wanted to help out and I wanted to help them out, I would do it. But you know, it's been a really great experience and people have really helped me over the last couple of years. Like Patreon pays me on the 1st, and you know, that's when I pay rent, etc. So a lot of other things pay later in the month, but it's been a great cycle and I've had a great couple of years. So I just wanted to take a second to say thank you so much. And since everybody's supporting to such an extent and it's going so well, I mean, I have no motivation to slow down. Saturday and Sunday are like my off days. On my off days, I did 2 live streams. I did 3 lives. I did a secret podcast yesterday, one with Eric Griffin. Today, I'm doing a marketing course that I've been working on for a long time, my book. It's like I don't take a break. I mean, I do, but you get what I'm saying. I don't take a day off. That's not my thing. So thank you for the support, and I'll keep it moving. But I'm very grateful for Patreon, and I'm very grateful for Facebook supporters. Those are excellent. Someone said, why does the IRS need to be armed? Do they plan on going to people's housing demanding money? What's their plans where they need to be armed? I don't know, but I guess like here's what I heard, an interesting theory. Someone said, real quick, anomaly, we need to expand, hire some people. I tried to hire somebody. It didn't work. I will expand when the time is right, but I can't explain it, but with what I do, I'm like pulling it out of thin air. It's almost harder sometimes for somebody to help me because I'm like all over the place in my own head and I feel like I'm the only one who could do it. But anyway, with the IRS thing, here's an interesting argument, okay? Like you have a lot of right-wing people saying like we need firearms, you know, everybody needs a gun, you know, teachers need to be armed to fight school shooters. And it's like, do you realize that teachers, there's a lot of like blue-haired psycho left-wing teachers, like you want them to have a gun, but you don't want an IRS person to have a gun? As a citizen of America, if you really believe in the Second Amendment, they should have a right to have a gun either way. Should we pay for it? I mean, probably not. I'm not for IRS expansion. In fact, I just think the whole tax system's a scam. So I'm not pro IRS funding. I'm not for them, but I mean, you know, if you live in a red state, people can carry guns anyway. So I'm not for the government spending, but I don't know. I'm not overly scared about the IRS having guns. I don't foresee them coming to your house and just shooting people, but in general, you know, it is alarming that we're paying for like tens of thousands of new ones. It's too much. What if we took that money and just paid off the taxes? I don't know. And then people are like, oh, you know, let's just target people over $400,000. Like, let's not target the middle class. On one hand, yeah, you shouldn't be targeting like lower and middle class, but why do people think it's okay for small businesses to be charged? It's like if they put 80, because there's people who want all those 87,000 to just go after 400,000 and more. Do you know what that means? You're going to have 87,000 IRS agents going after small businesses, mom and pop shops, people who are entrepreneurs. Like, that doesn't make it any better. I mean, yeah, it's better than like trying to grab a nickel from some guy who makes like $20. But, you know, it's like even if they go after 400,000 and more, they're going to be going after small business owners and people who run, you know, competitive operations against like big corporations. So it's too much. I mean, I don't know. I pay my taxes, so I don't really care either way, but, you know, I pay taxes. I'm honest with it, but I'm full libertarian with taxes. I think it should be like close to 0. 30%? Are you kidding me? 40%, 12%, 15%? It's too much. For what? I would love for the government to just chill out for like a year, you know? It's a government shutdown. We're not going to get funded. Great. You know, we lock down for a year. Why don't you guys lock down for a year? Let's see what happens. Someone said we're getting squeezed again. Happened under Obama too. The middle and lower class. Democrats are such a scammers. I don't get how people don't get it yet. You've heard me complain about Republicans. It's clearly the lesser of two evils, like so clearly. At least Republicans sometimes do something off your back, but then, I don't know, then Republicans are always scamming too, so it is annoying. But Democrats are just like, let's bigger, and you're like, dude, to me the solution is change the Republican Party. It's starting to happen. There are libertarians in the Republican Party. Thomas Massey, Rand Paul, Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, they would get on board with a libertarian if a libertarian got in power. There's a lot of people ready to push that. So it's like the left wing, it's just not working. No offense. It's like, go right, try to get them to do the right thing. To me, that's the political solution. But there's people who will disagree with me. Should I debate somebody who said they want to debate about why not voting is important? Like, this guy wants to debate me and he's like, Anomaly, let's debate about why not voting is the answer. It's like, I don't think voting's the answer, just like I don't think not voting's the answer. What's up with all these people that want to be like, I don't vote, and they like smell their own poop? They're like, I don't vote, but that smells like roses. I just saved America because I didn't vote. It's like, it doesn't matter. I'm not out here saying the only thing you need to do is vote, vote, vote. I vote. I think there is strategy to it. I suggest people vote. But if you don't vote, cool. I'm not going to knock it. I'm not going to be like, you're ruining the country. It's your choice. But it's like, what's up with these people that are like, I don't vote, so I just saved the world? It's like, it doesn't, like, it's the most self-righteous, delusional, like, I don't get it. Like, people want to debate me for 5 hours, and it's this new guy who wants to do the same debate I had with Brian from High Impact Flicks. I like that guy. He's a nice guy. But it's like someone new now is like, let's debate for 5 hours at why not voting is the answer. It's like, it's not the answer. Game over. Debate over. Someone said, if you don't vote, don't complain. I don't want to hear it. I just don't get why they think it's such a great thing. Like, I didn't vote. Now there's rainbows everywhere, not the gay kind, the Jesus kind, and everybody's playing, and there's no corrupt politicians because nobody voted. Like, it's not the answer. It doesn't do anything, but whatever. Someone said founding fathers, most of them were Republicans. Yeah, but they were like libertarian Republicans. Like, if the founding fathers came back and looked at Trump's administration, they would think he was Karl Marx. You could get mad at that if you want, but if Madison and Jefferson came through a time portal and I told them everything that Trump did, the amount of money he printed, the amount of executive orders he passed, and what executive orders he passed, they would be like, are you sure he's not following the Communist Manifesto? Although the Communist Manifesto is later, I think. But you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how many hundreds of years the Communist Manifesto has been around, but the Republican Party is not Republican. Like, the founding fathers were libertarian Republicans that understood liberty. Republicans are socialists. I would love to debate anybody on that. Not like, did somebody smell that? It's just me not voting again. I'm like, cool. All right, let's see. Someone said the founding fathers literally started an insurrection. I mean, that's historically accurate. I'm not saying that should be repeated. It shouldn't, but that literally is kind of what they did, though. But, you know, the QAnon shaman is not doing that. He's like, look at my Instagram selfie. He's like, chink, chink. And then they're like, oh my gosh, that's literally an insurrection. It's like, do you think George Washington was taking Instagram selfies in the Capitol? I'm pretty sure that wasn't a full-blown insurrection, but if you want to pretend like it was to fundraise for 5 years, that's on you. As somebody that thinks that January 6th was a mistake and a trap and goofy, it was not an insurrection, in my opinion. But if you want to pretend like it is, that's fine. Also, when it happened, you know, I was just like, I wasn't justifying it, but I was like, what did you think was going to happen? You know, like, psychologically, this is what annoys me about the government besides everything. You locked everybody down for a whole year. You know what I'm saying? Even with all the BLM riots, a lot of people were just going because it was the one thing that the media told them was okay. I know so many people that went out in the streets for the BLM thing, not because they really care, but because it's like, oh shoot, the media is actually telling me I could go outside for the first time in 4 months. You know, that's a huge reason those riots were so huge as well, because of the lockdowns. But same with the insurrection. I'm not fully blaming the government, but it's like you treat people like prisoners for a year, then you open the floodgates for George Floyd and everybody runs in the streets. You know, you treat people like garbage for a year. You treat Trump supporters like complete trash for 4 years. You literally, like, the whole 4 years, I'm like, even if you don't like Trump, can you analyze why people like Trump? Oh, they're all racist? Of course not. Some people like Trump for his economy. Some people like the idea of draining the swamp. Some people like his foreign policy. Some people like prison reform. Like Donald Trump, there's a lot of reasons to like him when he was running, but the media just treated everyone like crap. I'm like, you treat everyone like crap for 4 years. You lock everybody down. You don't allow them to question things. And then people show up for Trump. I'm not saying it was justified, but it's like, does the government take no accountability? You know, does the media take no accountability for the George Floyd riots? They don't care. People like, you know, Merrick Garland, someone said, F you libtard, I lost all respect for you. Well, clearly you did not listen to the whole live stream, because I proved economically I'm further right than the Republican Party, but whatever. I don't even know what you're talking about, but Merrick Garland, when he talks on television, he's like, you know, oh, how dare people criticize the FBI, and he's like fuming out his face. And it's like, listen, I do think some people are overly critical or whatever, but do you take no accountability? Did the FBI, like, you know what I'm saying? A real leader would be like, hey, we don't want people to distrust the FBI, so we're going to take accountability for things we've done and we're going to be better. I've never heard them say that. I mean, how they handled the Hillary thing, how they handled the, you know, Whitmer thing was sketchy, and probably most importantly, how they handled the Epstein thing was the most suspect thing I've ever seen in my life. They take no accountability and they just want you to trust them. Trust is earned, you know? So I don't know. This makes me question, are they liars, or are they just very stubborn, power-hungry people that think that they just steal trust? You know, I just need it. It's like, trust is earned. I don't know. Let's see. Someone said, state your sources for facts. Which ones? State your sources for facts on the statement. Joanel, is that how you say it, Juanel? Which sources or which statement do you want me to repeat or whatever? Just let me know which part of what I said. I just said like 5 things, and I got some guy yelling at me, like calling me a liberal. I'm not liberal. It doesn't make me left-wing to point out the fact that the Republican Party is further left-wing than the Founding Fathers. Karl Marx would think that the Republican Party was like semi-socialist. He'd be like, dang, they're pretty good. All right, let's see. I'm trying to read the comments. Someone said, read Agenda 2030. One day I will, not right now. Someone said, Trump's Secretary of Labor, Alex Acosta, literally gave Epstein a sweetheart deal in 2008. I forgot about that guy. I remember reading that. I don't know the exact story, but I think you're right from what I remember. Alex Acosta, he was, yeah, all the same people. It's like Trump's hiring people that gave Epstein a sweetheart deal. Judge Reinhardt, who's charging Trump. It's like the government is basically just Jeffrey Epstein's friend scamming everybody. It's like, do you want Epstein's friend taxing you 35% or Epstein's sort of not friend taxing you 32%? You know, and then it's like Nobel Peace Prizes are just like won by, it's like, do you want a Pulitzer Prize? And it's like, yeah, do I do good journalism? They're like, no, just be friends with Jeffrey Epstein. It's like, I'm tired of just getting scammed by Jeffrey Epstein's friend, but whatever. I know he did hire that guy. Let's see. Trump should get the term we voted for. Then who should take the next round as CEO? I think Steve Bannon. I don't know. I would be fine with Trump winning if people just held him accountable and actually challenged him. But if everybody's just going to like not challenge him, then it's going to be another disaster. You can almost guarantee it. But who knows? I don't know. Trump. Here's another thing people don't want to talk about. Listen, Biden is very old. Biden is possibly demented, probably demented, literally almost obviously demented, whatever you want to say. But Trump is also really old. Like, do you see 80-year-olds running companies? Dude, people step down in their 60s or 70s. Like, this is really what the Republican Party wants. They want an 80-year-old. I don't know. Maybe Trump will literally go, off on his enemies, or maybe he literally just won't. I don't know. Someone said, anomaly, whoever just posted the ignorant comment right now a few seconds ago is probably talking to themselves in the mirror. I agree. Appreciate you. Someone said, I'm an anarchist and I get called lefty liberal. I don't like any government. Well, I think Republicans tend to spiral when you just don't like them. I mean, I'm not saying don't like them, but if you're like, oh, I disagree with Trump or Republican, they'll be like, oh, you must be a liberal. That's like the default, like, oh, someone called me blue anon today. Like like, you're blue anon. And I'm like, literally no. But yeah, I guess if you're like a right-wing anarchist, people will just be like, oh, you must be left-wing if you don't like what we're doing. But it's like, no, I just don't like government. Let's see. Someone said, I'm fully supporting Trump, even though Anomaly's super manic about it. Junior, I appreciate you staying the whole live stream. You've been here since the beginning. You've been here last time, and you've been upset at what I said about Trump. But I will give you credit, Junior. You stayed the entire time. So if you want to pretend that I'm manic, that's fine. But luckily, this is recorded. So everyone's like, Anomaly's so hateful. I'm not. I'm actually glad that, like, I mean, it's very creepy to me that everything's recorded all the time, but I'm glad because it's like people could, like, they're like, oh my God, Anomaly's so hateful. It's like, you could watch the stream. It's all recorded. Even with, like, when I talk about the anti-Semitism bills, like, people, this doesn't happen much anymore because everybody knows that I'm not, but they'll be like, oh my God, Anomaly hates Israel. He hates Jews. He's anti-Semitic. It's like, everything I said is recorded. You know what I'm saying? Nobody thinks that. So if, like, it's all there. I'm just saying I disagree with the speech law, and then people spiral and think that you like hate an entire group of people. It's like, it's all recorded, and I've never said that because I actually don't think that. I feel so comfortable speaking about the anti-Semitism speech law stuff because I know I'm not a hateful person and I don't hate an entire country or group of people. So it's easy for me to talk about. It's not scary. People are like, aren't you afraid of like talking about that? I'm like, no, I actually like it. Because then I'm like, oh, I can explain how I'm saying, but I don't have to like hide it because I'm actually not hateful. So if you think what I'm saying is hateful, then whatever. That's a good one. Someone said Trump 2024, so Anomaly has fresh content. It's not just me that'll have fresh content. CNN will have fresh content. They love Trump. The left wing makes a killing off of like hating him, but I'll have content either way. But Trump is a media magnet. It's like FBI raid. It's like a big movie. It's like, what's the warrant? It is kind of fun to like report on. I'm not thrilled what they're doing, but it's like he definitely puts on a show. There's no question about it. So, he's good for clicks, but I do think that my best year was 2020, and it was mostly my COVID reporting that got the clicks, but for sure. Someone said the world is a stage. It is. Someone said, you're right about the lesser of two evils. I just think Trump puts America first. He's definitely better than Democrats. I don't want to be overly repetitive, but the Joe Rogan thing's the perfect example. When Joe Rogan had on the CEO of Twitter, he got more thumbs down than thumbs up because he did a bad interview. And then he realized because of the criticism, and then he redid it because it's not just like fake criticism. It's like 90% of his own fan base was saying boo. So I want people to boo Trump because I think he's better than Biden. I think somewhere, below that, crispy tan skin of his, I think he has a heart there. But I don't think anything's going to change until people hold him accountable. He literally gets treated like Michael Jackson when he did communism. I can prove that he did communism. I could prove that he did socialism. I could prove that Karl Marx would probably be thrilled with 2020. But people don't care. They give it a thumbs up. So I'm not hateful. I'm not manic. You will fail. There is going to be no making America great again. It's going to spiral again. You're going to lose. You're going to get played. It's not going to work until people, it's not being mean. Hold the guy accountable or it's just going to be a big joke. It's so obvious. I really don't get it, but at the same time, I do get it. So whatever. Someone said, I don't trust any politicians. That's good. Your job is not to treat them like they're a character out of That 70s Show. they're passing policy. So now when Trump ran in 2016, he's an outsider. He has no political experience, at least on a big scale. That was his thing. Now he's running as somebody who was in office for 4 years. So there's no shot. It's like, what might he do? He already did it. So I don't understand what people are thinking. They're like, I get what you're saying, but I just want to not question it. It's like, okay, then shove a PCR test up your nose, go wear a mask, vote for Trump, and whatever. Someone said Anomaly is hateful. He hates ignorance, bigotry, communism, lies, etc. I do despise the evils, you know? I appreciate that. That was witty. But I have to say, I think it's just like who I am. And I'm writing a whole marketing course. I'm not selling it because it's not even out yet. But like, I'm putting together a course because I went from, in 2008, I had a couple million views, and I got 100 million views. I have almost 1 billion views. I did all the marketing myself with $0 for the most part. So I could teach people how to win online. But a lot of how to win online is how to win in life. It's the same core principles that make somebody great in a lot of different things. There's a lot of athletes that obviously they have like God-given talent, but there's also a lot of people like that work their ass off. Kobe Bryant wouldn't have been that good if he didn't work so hard. So at the end of the day, whether it's sports, whether it's marketing, whether it's internet, whether it's your job, whether it's working out at the gym, whatever you do in life, there's a certain way to be successful and there's a certain way to not be successful. So the things I'm applying to Trump are things that I apply in every facet of my life and things that I apply to myself. I'm extremely competitive. I'm extremely hardworking. And I don't believe in like softballing myself or anyone else. I push myself super, super hard. So when I try to work around other people, sometimes it doesn't work because if you're not, it's like working out with a guy who's just jacked. It's going to be tough. And if you're trying to make excuses, you're not going to last in the training course. You're going to be crying 10 minutes in. So I'm not trying to be rude, but I see it as like everybody just cries all the time. Like Democrats are the biggest crybabies in the world. Everything's racist. Everything's sexist. Nina Turner says, pay everybody $25 an hour. Here's my take. Why don't you pay your employees $200 an hour? I could say that to you too. It's like, no, that hurts my feelings. Oh, that's bigotry. Oh, that's transphobia. It's like the left wing are the biggest snowflakes, but you go to the right wing, and no offense, but a lot of Trump supporters are snowflakes too. It's like you point out the fact that he employed pharmacy lobbyists, that he did socialism, that he printed trillions of dollars, that he signed executive orders to empower big pharma, that he gave them a bunch of money, that he passed an executive order to do Karl Marxy type stuff and gave the CDC power to strong arm landlords. Like you point out these factual things, and all of a sudden MAGA's not so tough anymore. It's like, oh, why do you want to critique Trump so much? It's like, guys, if Trump was an athlete, you're allowing him to be terrible. If Trump was working out and this were a competition, you're allowing him to fail. It's your fault. It's not even his fault. It's your fault. Like, why are we such snowflakes with the guy? You're incentivizing his failure. You're guaranteeing that nothing's going to get done. You're guaranteeing that the Republican Party under his leadership will fail because you're babying him so much. You're softballing him. You get what I'm saying? It's crazy. If I do a crazy bad report, you're supposed to tell me that it's not good. If I run around the country selling vaccines for a year saying it's the greatest human achievement, you're supposed to boo me, guys. I don't want people to like me just because I look cool or I sound cool. I want people to respect what I'm doing because I do good research. And if at any point my research becomes just completely fraudulent and I start shilling for big pharma, you're allowed to say no. I want you to do that. I like a challenge. If I'm working out and I got some guy that's jacked who says, bro, you're not holding it properly, I'm not going to spiral and say, oh, now I know what I'm doing. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe you're helping me. This is how you win in every aspect of life. This is how I made it here. This is how I've marketed myself to this level. This is how, everything works in this world. So why in the world do Trump supporters want to baby Trump so much? You're not helping him. You're not helping the country. You're not helping yourself. You're incentivizing failure. You're incentivizing nothing to happen. There is no plan for things to go the right way. You get what I'm saying? I don't get it from like a game theory perspective, what people don't understand. Anything great in life, you need to reflect. You need to call it out. You need to thumbs down. That's how it works. Imagine being like a coach and just being like, yeah, yeah, we lost by 20 points in the fourth quarter, but like, let's just do the same thing again. You get what I'm saying? That's what people are saying to Trump. 2020 was the biggest fail in modern history, and he brags about it in his speeches. And his base is just like, yeah, let's run that back and not say anything. It's like, what? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills on Mugatu. Baked gave me $5. He said, love your work, brother. Always preach the truth and how you feel. Never let the mob dictate your actions. Much respect and great work. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'll read a few more. Someone said, OMG, I can't listen to your BS anymore. I hope people stop listening to Anomaly. Trisha, what part of, I'm going to give you a chance before you leave. Trisha, what part of what I said bothered you? Because you're like emotionally spiraling. So name one part of that last epic rant that you didn't like. Name what part bothered you? What part? The part that I said that to be successful in anything in life, you have to challenge yourself. And if you like people, you need to challenge them and not give them a thumbs up to betray you again. What part bothered you? You said, WTF, I'm out, it's terrible. What part? What part is so terrible? What part bothered you? Do you not want to hear that he put a pharmacy lobbyist at the head of Human Health Services? Do you not want to hear that Donald Trump took $1 million from Pfizer because he did? Do you not want to hear that he employed the guy who gave Epstein a sweetheart deal? Do you not want to hear that he signed a multi-trillion-dollar socialist bill? Do you not want to hear that he signed an executive order that gave the CDC like Karl Marx style powers? What part bothers you? You don't want to hear that? You're exactly the type of person I'm talking about. You want to baby this guy into your own failure. I don't want to fail. I'm not going to fail. Someone said, I didn't take Anomaly for a rhino. You're not making sense, Trisha. You're spiraling, okay? You're spiraling. You're not making any sense. I'm telling you the Republican Party did socialism. I can prove it. I have the receipts. The facts are on my side. What part bothers you? You're programming spiraling. If you don't like Trump, then you must be the Democrat. It must be rhino. He's a rhino. He did socialism. Prove me right. You can't. This is why Andrew Tate's so popular, because he tells women, he's like, listen, y'all got to calm down. I'm not disrespecting you. I'm just saying it's like at a certain point, maybe politics and getting emotionally involved is not the play. Maybe, there's other career paths. I'll wait a few seconds, then we'll move on. Someone said she's just saying that so you can react. She's not just saying it so I can react, and it's all good. I'm just saying a lot of people feel this way because they've never heard it. Because there's not a lot of intelligent conversation, no offense, going on a lot of Republican pages. I'm not trying to be rude. There are some. Tucker Carlson's a standout to me. I think he does interesting work a lot of times. Sometimes it's basic, but a lot of times it's interesting. I'm not a hater. But when you listen to a lot of Republican pages, they're just countering the left. That's all they do. They're masters at countering the left, and they're masters at using the left to make a lot of money. It's like, look at the left. They're so bad. Give me money. Look at the FBI raid. It's so bad. Donate to my father. That's fine. There's a time and a place for countering the left. I think it's necessary. But this is why the movement's become such an echo chamber. It's not as bad as the left. There's still a lot of people who get it. I want to give the benefit of the doubt and say most people get it. But the reason most people don't hear about it is because nobody talks about it. I mean, I understand from like a philosophical perspective that people like people to agree with them. I'll give you an example real quick. If I buy a stock or I buy a crypto, I want to hear all sides of it. I don't just want a yes man, but to be honest, I want to hear somebody that tells me I'm going to make a lot of money, right? It's like if I buy a crypto, yeah, I want to hear both sides of it, but really I want to hear, I want to hear the guy who tells me I'm going to make a lot of money, because if I wasn't going to make a lot of money and it wasn't a good investment, then I wouldn't buy it. So if I buy something, I'm thinking it's going to go up. So I'm looking on YouTube for somebody who's going to tell me it's going to go up. It's what I do. I'm honest about it. This is how people treat politics. They want somebody to tell them what they want to hear. If you're Team Red, there's 99% of the Team Red people will say, we're Team Red, we're the best, And that's just what they want to hear. And a lot of people have formed this new thing where people think they're getting this raw, unfiltered thing, but they're really just getting the new Team Red. The new Team Red is the Team Trump. So you have people saying, listen, we're the Team Trump, we're fighting the rhinos, we're fighting Team Red, but we're the good guys. But it's like a lot of that conversation is very basic. It's very very predictable, very just like loopy. And, it gets to the point where it's like no one's heard this. I'm not repeating this to be annoying. I'm repeating it because I want to get it through people's heads, and I want to say it so much that people start asking Steve Bannon, and people start asking Jack Posobiec, and people start asking mainstream people pushing this. And I like Jack. I've met him multiple times. He's a nice guy. We get along. But I'm just saying, I'm going to repeat this again, and I just want to know why no one else is talking about it. Why isn't Dan Bongino talking about it? Why isn't any Republican talking about it? Donald Trump hired a pharmacy lobbyist and executive in 2017 to run the entire health industry after he took $1 million inauguration donation from Pfizer. He put a pharmacy lobbyist at the head of health. This is a huge problem. You could blame Fauci, you could blame Democrats, and they deserve some blame, but Donald Trump is one of them. He put a pharmacy executive at the head of HHS. He signed an executive order in 2019 to modernize, all vaccines. And if you read it, you'll learn exactly what it did. In 2020, he started working with Moderna in January. He started playing along to 15 days to slow the spread. He signed Operation Warp Speed. He signed the CARES Act. He gave the CDC executive power with his pen to strong-arm landlords in a communist style. Why is no one talking about it? This is why people get mad at me. They're not being trolls. They genuinely have never heard this stuff before because no one else talks about it. There's no big person. You turn on Fox News, they're never going to talk about it. You turn on Newsmax, they're never going to talk about it. Steven Crowder's never going to talk about it. Tim Pool's never going to talk about it. And thanks to their terrible team, I'm never going to get to talk to Tim Pool. And I was hoping I would get on Tim Pool to let the world know and tens of thousands of people, but mysteriously they just treated me like garbage, so I can't get on it. And there was a weather delay. People aren't being trolls. They genuinely think this because no one's talking about it. No one with a big audience in the MAGA movement that's selling everybody on, we're the new Republicans, we're so different, and we're backing Trump, and we're going to fight Liz Cheney. None of these accounts are saying this stuff. So I'm going to keep repeating it so somebody starts demanding it to the other people. This is why people get upset with me, because they've never heard it. They've heard a lot of stuff, but this seems like it's a mean thing, or it's a lot. It's the truth. No one's saying it because everybody just wants to sniff the dirt off his shoes and set us up for failure again. All right, clearly my throat's going out, so a couple more minutes and I'm going to take out. Someone said, dude, Ian would have come on to you. You would have dodged a bullet. I don't know what that means, but I don't think I want to know what that means. Let's see. Someone said Trump said he would use the military to distribute vaccines. Yeah, it's like a nightmare conspiracy theory. Like, dude, the military is going to distribute the vaccine. It's like, yeah, whatever, you kook. And then they literally do it. So why am I the only one talking about them? That's what you have to ask yourself. Why am I the only one talking about it? There's a few different reasons, but I'll go through them. First of all, I did the research. I'm not going to knock anybody else, but I'm not basic, and I really know how to deep dive. I'm not like, there's a lot of, in my opinion, I'll just use Tim Pool as an example. Seems like a not nice guy, but whatever. He's just reading headlines, and it's a good business model. He's making a fortune, but it's like, read the headline, just get upset, yell Civil War, whatever. It's like, that's what a lot of people are doing. They're just coasting. It's like, let's just do bare minimum work. There's going to be a story of the day. The left's going to do something crazy, and we're just going to fight with them. So a lot of people aren't getting to the core, and they might not even know it. So let's go on that and just say maybe people don't know this stuff. Another thing is, what people don't understand is I know that some people do know this stuff because I've told them publicly, privately. I'm asked, they just don't care. You know what I'm saying? I think strategically, this is the only way we're going to win. They think they just need to sniff Trump's butt and do that. Why do they think that? Innocently, they could, in my opinion, be wrong. Maybe they could be right, but they just think that's the only way to do it. I think there's a big social dynamic to it. You have to understand, I don't get booked for a lot of these big things, right? Even though, obviously, I'd be a better speaker than them. All these, they got a bunch of right-wing NPCs doing all this stuff. They're just throwing a bunch of donor money at them. You know, at a lot of these big events, they don't want to book me. They want to act like I don't exist, even though, you know, they know who I am. And when I go to these events, people got to understand I'm not always welcomed immediately. I mean, people like me there, but they almost banned me from a major event. So when you start to say the things that I'm going to say, not only do they not want to book you, not only do donors not want to pay you, not only do, you know, these big organizations not want to work with you, but they actually almost tried to ban me. I mean, if I didn't defend myself, they would have banned me. They essentially told me, you can't come. You know what I'm saying? You're not welcome at our event at Turning Point. Luckily, they made the right decision and rescinded it. I had a great time. They put on a great show, and I'm appreciative of it. But, you know, when you say what I say, you almost get blacklisted. You know, I'm just too big of a force to get blacklisted, and I'm not the one to blacklist. You get what I'm saying? It's like, don't treat me like this. You're not going to smear my name. Let me come to the event. And they did. Smart move. But in general, this is why people don't want to say it. I think this is the main reason. There's a lot of money in Republican politics, and one way to get the money is to do what the donors want you to do and do what the big organizations want you to do. Yeah, they're not as bad as CNN. They allow certain people to get leeway, but it's kind of like a push and pull. For example, if you're not as big as Candace Owens, you're not going to be able to talk against vaccines as much as Candace does. You get what I'm saying? Like, if you're just some average up person, they don't want you to talk like that. They want you to just be like, I don't want to name somebody to be rude, but think of somebody really basic and really generic. That's what they're looking for to groom on the right wing. Candace is allowed to say the stuff about the vaccines that she does because Candace built her base huge. So now it's like a business thing. You get what I'm saying? Candace has leverage. So she signed with Daily Wire, not because Daily Wire is trying to do Candace a favor. It's because Candace can do something for Daily Wire, and it's a mutual thing. They met, they did some deal, and then Candace brought her audience to Daily Wire. You know, the reason Candace gets away with a lot more than other people, you know, she does great work, in my opinion, when she talks about vaccine stuff. It's because she built her brand so big that she has FU money and FU branding. So if Daily Wire doesn't want to work with her, she doesn't care. She's already bigger than most people there. And when they do want to work with her, you know, she's got more clout than even Shapiro at this point. So she's got leverage. You know, that's why I don't have as much leverage as Candace, but I have enough leverage where I'm like, you really trying to ban me and act like I'm some sort of fringe person? So, you know, it's a game of leverage. You know, I've built my audience and I don't compromise for anything. And if they want to ban me, that's fine. If they don't, they don't. But this is why a lot of people don't do that. Because if you want to go the route of pushing a narrative that's not popular in the Republican Party, instead of getting invited to events, you get banned from events. Instead of getting donor money, you get shunned from the donor class. Instead of, you know, getting praised and your butt sniffed by the right-wing blogs, you start getting smeared and they start talking trash about you. So the reason nobody else is talking this about Trump is because it's not a financial or socially popular thing to do, and a lot of people just want the easy route. To play the flip side for you guys, I've had nothing but success, and it's not like I'm unpopular. I go to these TPUSA events, I take hundreds of pictures, major, you know, people there like me and appreciate me, so it's not like I'm unpopular, but it's like the two ways to be popular. It's like if you join Democrat media, you can be popular, but you have to be a liar. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's one way to be popular. You can be John Legend or, you know, Chrissy Teigen, but then you have to be a Democrat. You can't exist in that. You can't exist in like the celebrity world and be right-wing Trump supporter unless you're Kanye and you have so much leverage you can get away with it. Do you get what I'm saying? Everything comes at a cost. So if you work for the media, you're supposed to be a Democrat. If you work in the Trump atmosphere, you're supposed to just sniff his butt at this point. You know, there's not really, you get what I'm saying? Like TPUSA, nobody's questioning any of this stuff. You think anybody on the stage is being like, oh yeah, Operation Warp Speed was a bad idea. We shouldn't have printed so much money. No one says that on stage. Everyone's like, the left is the real racist. I'm not a taco. You know, how dare Jill Biden do that? Like, that's all they say. If I come to these events and say, hey, what about this? Then it's like, hey, you're not going to get booked. Hey, we might ban you. Hey, so that's why nobody says it. It's not financially or socially smart. The left, they have a big team. You want to be in mainstream media? Then be Democrat. You know what I'm saying? You want to support Trump? We're going to make your life miserable. You think the right doesn't do that? They do. They do the same thing. You want to be right wing. Obviously, don't be a Democrat. Why would you? But you want to be right wing at this point. You want to come in this, massive My Pillow, like, PragerU, TPUSA, you know what I'm saying? In this economy, this pro-Trump economy, then just sniff Trump's asshole. Like, we're not looking for you to, do too much deep diving. But to be fair, people do it. Matt Walsh does it. Matt Walsh says stuff. People are, there are people who speak out. I think Jesse Kelly does a good job. Matt Walsh does a good job. I'm sure I'm missing people. I think Bryson Gray calls them out sometimes. But, I'm not trying to knock other people, but that's why no one wants to do this. And when I tell people, you'd be shocked at how little they care. A lot of people are not who you think they are. They put on an act. It's like, I'm the Republican, I'm MAGA. But then I'll mention a speech law, and I've seen for my own eyes, they're not disagreeing with me. They know what I'm saying is true, but they're weighing out things in their heads behind closed doors. They're thinking to themselves, well, yeah, what Anomaly's saying about the speech laws is true, but, will I lose money if I say this? Will my boss get mad at me if I say this? Will they not invite me to the next event if I say this? This is what people are thinking. I know this because I've seen them do it in front of me. You get what I'm saying? Oh yeah, I know what you're saying is 100% accurate, and that is a violation of our liberty, but am I going to lose my special boy privileges in the right wing if I start to talk about this? And a lot of times the answer is yes. And you have to understand, when you build an audience, you get what you put out. You attract what you put out. You get what I'm saying? If you do unfiltered, unbiased narratives, you get that type of audience. If I'm doing a lot of pro-Trump content because he's a good guy, I'm going to get a lot of Trump supporters. This is just how it works, right? So I have a mixture. I have libertarians, I have anarchists, I have some honest progressives, I have people right-wing, I have people left-wing. I have, millions of Trump supporters who follow me. I have people who like DeSantis more. I have a little mixture because I've been around different perspectives, but in general, I've built a pretty solid audience of, for the most part, a majority of people who are ready to understand that I'm ready to call it like I see it, no matter how the cookie crumbles. So that's what I've made. You have to understand, a lot of these influencers, they haven't built that type of audience. They've built an audience where literally they've never done deep diving reporting. They've never called out both sides. They've never specialized on calling out big pharma tyranny. They've made an audience out of just supporting Trump. So if you have this audience that's like 50 times more just a pro-Trump audience, if me and you post the same thing, we're going to get different comments. I've seen conservative pages challenge Trump and people spiral. So it's like, a lot of people are afraid of upsetting their base. And you see that with a lot of these Q type people, not Q himself, but a lot of these fake prophets who are like, I'm Q now, patriots, I have intel. At this point, I don't know if they're purposely misleading people or if they actually believe their own shit. But in general, you have to understand they've built that audience. So if I tell the truth, my audience, in my humble opinion, is I'm calling it like I see it. There might be times where it gets uncomfortable, but I don't really have to worry about much. I'm going to keep growing. I'm going to keep expanding, and people are going to get it regardless, because this is how I built it. I've never just literally been like, I don't care. I've been like, this is what's going on. Trump's crushing it. This is not crushing it. I've always been like that. But a lot of these Q decoder people, they've built an audience playing this fortune cookie game of maybe it's going to. So if they ever come out and say, hey, Trump did Operation Warp Speed and it's actually not good, their entire audience is going to spiral. So they can't tell the truth to their audience. They've become a prisoner of their own support base. So it's like, some of them I truly believe know what they're doing, but it's like, they've built an audience that doesn't want to hear that. So they're a prisoner of their own audience. Like, well, if I were to tell my audience that Donald Trump hired a pharmacy lobbyist and he gave the CDC executive power, to do communism, my audience would spiral. So it's easier for me to just ignore that or say he's exposing his enemies by giving them money and power. So, a lot of people I think are a prisoner of their own support base, or they're just more interested in money, popularity, ego, fame, and Team Red than they are the truth. This is very important to me. And people don't get it twisted. I'm going to go soon because my voice is giving out, but I don't even want to stop Trump from running. I'm not the FBI. I'm not Merrick Garland. I want him to be able to run as a citizen, and I don't even care if he wins, but I do care if nobody asks him these questions, you know? Asking him these questions will make him better. Asking him these questions will ensure that he knows that his base is paying attention. The worst thing you could do for the country, for yourself, for Republicans, for success is turn a blind eye to this stuff and say, oh, whatever, you know, he'll figure it out. What if he doesn't, though? There's no signs that he cares. I don't think he thinks that some of his hires were bad because, you know, Alex Azar stood there the whole time. The pharmacy lobbyist lasted his entire term. Trump sees him as a loyal guy. Trump's a big pharma salesman. So, you know, I don't know what people are thinking or why they're doing it, but I can promise you that I'm not trying to be a dick, but everybody's not who they pretend to be, or everybody's playing a different chess game, right? Everybody's like, well, I'm so plugged in here, I don't want to burn this bridge, so I'd rather just not talk about it. But this is how we get in a lockdown. I'd rather not call it out. I'd rather not talk about it. I'd rather not to suggest it. And it's like, that's not the game I'm playing. And I get the chess game. Everybody wants to, you know, be loved and like they don't want to burn a bridge. But I don't think everybody is who they say they are. I think a lot of people prioritize different things than you think they prioritize. That's just my personal take. I think there's people who prioritize money, women, fame, connections, you know, invitations, bookings over truth, reality, you know, what's going to best interest the people there. Like, be a little tougher on these people, okay? Because I think you think, like, a lot of these people are living great lives. They're out, they're whining and dining, they're getting paid money to speak. I know I've done it. It's nice. I'm just saying, like, in your head, you think they're on the front lines fighting, and it's like, yeah, they are. It's not like they're not helping you, but at the end of the day, a lot of them are lost in the sauce, you know? It's like when you know, if you've never gotten women before, right? Say you're, no offense, you have no personality, you have no charisma, you've never gotten women, and now you have a hit song, and now women are throwing yourselves at you. It's easy to get lost in the sauce, right? It's easy to be like, wow, you know, it's easy to throw away your whole life and your whole career over some, you know what, over some women. So it's like, this is the dynamic of a lot of people in politics. It's like, they've never got a lot of money. They've never had a lot of fame. They've never had power. Nobody's ever cared about them. And now they're getting all of that. And what I think people don't realize is a lot of people get lost in the sauce and they're more interested in the money, the fame, the donor meetings. You know what I'm saying? You know how many of these people that you follow, they're at every donor thing, getting money, this and that. Like, that's their economy. You know, they're drinking wine, talking about the left, and it's like, they're not as interested in you as like free speech and Second Amendment. Yeah, they care about it, but it's like they're lost in the sauce. They're lost in the, you know, in the temptations of the world, and you know, their economy's just sniffing each other's butts, and you know, nobody wants to have a tough conversation because it's more easy to just dunk on the left. So, you know, it's a lot of that going on for sure. And I think people just think that's not happening. But at the end of the day, God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. It's all gravy. You know, I want to give a compliment real quick because I don't like to be like a massive critic. One person that I think has done an excellent job over the last year to elevate himself to, like, once again, like very high levels of popularity is Matt Walsh. You know, Matt Walsh, I think a couple years ago was just whatever, in my opinion. But Matt Walsh has made himself a standout. Why? Because Matt Walsh is not running around everybody else's narrative. He created his own. He said, this is what I care about. And he made a fantastic documentary exposing this psychotic, you know, left-wing stuff going on with gender. He didn't do that by just sniffing Trump's butthole. He took it into his own hands. You know, Matt Walsh calls out Trump all the time and says he doesn't even want him again in 2024. You know, is Matt Walsh a liberal? No, he's further right than Donald Trump on everything. Like, Matt Walsh is actually like Christian conservative, like, you know, very right-wing, you know, unapologetically. He's not just babying everybody. Matt Walsh didn't come to that status and because, you know, he's calling out the foreign stuff, but he's like, I see him as the biggest influencer right now that's not babying Trump. You know what I'm saying? He's got a lot of power and clout now. Matt Walsh is like gained a lot of influence. He's not using it to just baby everybody. Like, it sounds like, say what you want about him, it sounds like he's actually trying to make a difference in the world, you know? I'm not saying he's perfect or he's your best friend, but it's like, I don't think Matt Walsh is running around just trying to get donor money. I don't think Matt Walsh is running around just trying to be popular. I think Matt Walsh doesn't give a shit what people think. I don't think he cares how popular what he says is not. I don't think he cares if pro-Trumpers like what he's saying or not. I think he's very focused on being getting something done. You know what I'm saying? I think he wants to solve an issue, and I think he's dead set on countering that. Like, he's crushing it right now. Say what you want. I don't care. I see a lot of people laughing in the comments. Say what you want, but I can tell just based off how he operates that he's more concerned with making a difference and winning in his quest of what he's doing socially than he is about all this other stuff. You'd be shocked at how many people don't act that way. You'd be shocked at how many people are way more interested in all the other things than making a difference. That's my take on it. And, take it with a grain of salt. Appreciate you. It's been a super long live stream. God bless you. God bless your family. Before I leave, a few things. One, every one of these is on Dream Rare Podcast. If you search it on Apple, Spotify, Dream Rare Podcast, just spell Dream Rare Podcast. You can find it in audio form if you're on the go, if you're at work. Some people like podcasts because it's easier to load. I prefer people watch the video, but it is what it is. I just want to get the information out there. Thank you to everybody who's been watching that. It's been growing slowly but surely. Once again, thank you to everybody on Facebook, supporters. We will do a supporter-only live stream this week. I promise. It's been a crazy month. We'll talk about that behind the Facebook paywall. So thank you to everybody on Facebook. For Patreon, thank you to everybody on patreon.com/raretalk. We will have a secret episode tonight. After this, I'm going to post it on there, maybe tomorrow. But I have a 4th secret episode for Patreons only. And I just want to let y'all know, some people might not care, and it's all good. But, Saturday and Sunday, I usually try to take off. But I did 3 different casts, 2 of them public. One of them is going to be private. I've been writing some stuff. So even on my off days, I'm always trying to grind and not looking for sympathy. I just like what I do, and I'm passionate about it. So thank you guys for keeping me motivated, supporting. And I want to end on this. Junior said, who was getting upset at me earlier, he said, I enjoyed this show, really challenging. We're going to end it on that note. Dude, Junior, I appreciate you so much for staying the distance. I appreciate your backlash, and I appreciate you saying that, because just like I dish it out, I know I get flustered sometimes, but I don't see you as a troll, brother. I don't see, when people say, I don't like what you say, I might disagree with them. I might get a little spicy, but I don't think you're a troll. And I don't think, I don't like, this lady likes Trump more than you. That's fine. I don't think she's a troll. I think she genuinely feels that way. So I don't treat every critic as a troll. I see it as a challenge, and I see it as a way to go back and forth. I try to be as nice as I could be, but sometimes maybe I'm a little too harsh or whatever. But that means a lot to me, Junior, that you stayed the whole time, that you disagreed, that you gave backlash, and that you felt that way. Because I actually do appreciate, honest feedback. Or even if people disagree, I want to have this conversation, because I want to challenge my own party. We'll leave it at this, but it's like, I don't even talk to Democrats that much because I don't know what they're doing. And no offense, I don't really care at this point. You want to run New York City into the ground? You're ruining one of the greatest cities in the world, but whatever. I'm talking to Republicans because, in my opinion, this is the party that's going to change the country. I've come to the conclusion after years of research, after growing into a man from a young adult, it's going to be Republicans who fix these things. It's going to be Trump's movement. If I didn't think Trump's movement wasn't powerful, I would just say it's all bad. It's not bad. There's hundreds of millions of MAGA people, and these are the people that that already get most of what I'm saying anyway. So I'm just challenging it, not because I hate MAGA. I'm not challenging Trump support. I like Trump supporters. Most of my audience is conservative. I'm aware and I'm grateful. It's just like, I'm challenging us, not because I hate us, because I know that talking to someone on the left at this point, it's like they just want to talk in circles for 5 hours and like cry. And it's like, not everybody, but for the most part, I absolutely do it because I know that these are the people that get what I'm saying. And these are the people that are going to make it better if we're going to fix this stuff. God bless you. Appreciate you. I'll be back soon. And I'm so grateful for everybody on Patreon and Facebook supporters.